evaporated because you, oh, and then the lead,
I'm a little late on that. Sorry.
hey-oh, and then kind of the lead fell off. So just to set expectations on what your lead follow-up should look like, be prepared and be okay with the idea that this might take a long time to convert that lead into somebody who's doing a transaction with you currently. It's not you. That's how this works.
The other thing to think about too, guys, is that, and again, Gary Keller, your leads are not only in your database. The chances that leads in my database are also in Dave's database is very high, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not don't take it personal. If you think about yourself, like put yourself in the position, if there's something that you're trying to buy, or, there's something that you're interested in, you probably subscribe to multiple versions of whatever that is. So that lead, that contact is not only in your database, it's probably in the database of many other agents, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
We say this all the time in our market center, that consumers, right, our customers or clients, generally don't know how this works. They don't know how real estate works. They don't understand that we're 100% commission. They don't understand that we don't get an hourly rate. They don't understand that they should call an agent and not go on Zillow. They don't know any better. So if they're actively looking, whether they're pre-approved or not, they're clicking on all kinds of stuff all the time. And if there's somebody that's running a lot of Facebook ads and they have great SEO and they're really on social media, people are probably subscribing to their stuff because they're providing value. They may still want to do business with you, but if there's somebody else in the same industry that's providing a lot of value and giving information that's helpful or resources that they need, they're probably in their database too. So if
Right.
you're not the one that's communicating and following up with them regularly, when that time is right, and we're going to go through kind of that progress of where a lead goes, when the time comes, if you're not the one that's right there in front of their face, they're going to click, we're all guilty of it, right? It's the easiest way to get what we want. That's what we're going to do.
100%. Just think about how many emails you guys get a day from like a car dealership or mortgage lenders. You guys have probably put on your social media like, hey, I just got my real estate license and I joined a great company in Keller Williams. You've probably put that content out there, which means the lender feeding frenzy has started. So they talk to you and they get your email addresses, and all of a sudden you're getting emails from 8, 9, 10 lenders. That's the principle Melanie's talking about. You exist in multiple people's database, as to will people who exist in your database in others. I don't really know how to structure that sentence, but but your leads exist in multiple databases, which means you have to be the one providing the value constantly.
Yep. So Gary Keller shows this graphic a lot in his conversations now, and this is sort of that lifeline or timeline of what a lead really looks like. And Jason Abrams, if you guys watch his School is Cool stuff, he loves this graphic. He uses it all the time, and it makes a really great point and just solidifies what we're sharing, is that it's not always you, it's just not the right time. And it's difficult for us as real estate agents when someone's like, oh, not right now. Like, we're like, oh, I just spent this money for this lead, or I just spent all this energy and time. Like, I don't get to lead generate that often. If you're dual career, right, you have a very small amount of time to lead generate. And then you finally get someone on the phone and they're like, no, I need a few years. And you're like, well, that's totally normal. This is kind of how things go, right? So the top of the wave where it says move, that's when somebody just bought a house. Right. So if you happen to engage with someone that just bought a house, it's not that they're ignoring you or that your information is not valuable or that you're not an awesome real estate agent. It's just they don't need you right now. Right. They just bought a house. So then they kind of go down this curve, right? The day after they buy a house, now they're going downwards, and eventually they're going to buy another house. So it's this area where they show the dash marks. That's the key, right? So that's where you guys are so important to make sure that you're in regular communication, because as they come back to that time when it's ready for them, then you're the resource that they're going to reach out to. And that's really the most valuable time. And that's why it's kind of a long game. If you guys think about, if I gave you a lead up here where it says move, or I gave you a lead down here where there's not really a whole lot of activity, which one is more valuable to you right now? the one down here. It doesn't mean the one at Move is not valuable. It just means that they're not ready yet. So that timeline of when you're going to be the right agent and when you're actually going to transact business with them, it's just not now. It's not never, it's just not now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I say the longest, I use this example when I'm teaching Ignite in our market center a lot, where I had, I think the longest period of time I've had between somebody who I was lead generating with and between them actually transacting with me was 5 years, where it was a good friend of mine, and I would just make my calls like, hey, how's it going? Just trying to connect and doing my lead gen, my lead follow-up, right? And he would say, you know what, like his daughter had just been born at this point. He's like, yeah, you know what, we don't really want to be in the Providence school system, but we got 4 more years before we have to think about it. During that time, however, I continued to provide the value, and he a couple of times asked me about refinancing so like lender referrals, and he wants to know the value of his property, all sorts of stuff, right? I provided all of that value over that time period. And when it finally came time to sell, he contacted me. And it's not just that he contacted me, it was that there was another real estate agent that he knew. And that person almost kind of assumed that they were getting that business. And when he must have mentioned to this person that they were selling, and he said, oh yeah, but I'm going with the other guy being me. I'm going with Dave because Dave is the one who's been with me for several years, giving me these resources. So I was at the top of I don't think you can see my mouse moving, but I was at the top of that wave when I first started talking to him. I continued to talk to him all the way through the descent of the wave. And then I got him all the way up, and then we bought and sold when it happened. And it wasn't about me. He didn't not sell with me because of anything I had said or done. It just wasn't his time. So I just remained in close emotional proximity to him until it was time. And then I got the deals over somebody else whose database he was in.
Mm-hmm. So when you think about the leads that are in your data, it skipped a slide. They're leads, they're people, but that's business, right? So this is in your mind, you kind of have to make this transition between, okay, I lead generated and there's this person, there's this human that I'm trying to be in emotional proximity to. You also need to kind of in your head, almost transition that into, but it's money, it's business, right? And if you think about large corporations, they don't just operate on a now pipeline, they operate on a forever pipeline. And we are we are independent contractors. We all run our own businesses. So we need to think about it the same way, right? I tell agents all the time, well, okay, so they're not ready to buy now, but they might be ready in 2 years. Do you need business in 2 years? I do. I need business in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, because this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my professional career. So I'm happy to keep you in my database, even if you're not going to do business right now, because I still need business in the future, right? NAR loves to pull out this stat that they talk about all the time, but in 2021, they said that 78% of buyers only talked to one agent, and 82% of sellers only contacted one agent, right? So really, it's just, you have to figure out, how are you going to make sure that you are that one agent that they talk to when that time is right and when they're on that curve and they're ready to make their next transaction?
There's kind of an obvious element that we're missing here too. That bears saying, that we're talking about where somebody is on that 7 to 10 year wave. Yes, I love it when I come across somebody who is very close to the top of the wave, but they are going to be close to people in their lives that are close to the top of the wave, even if they personally are not, which is another reason you continue to lead generation, because it's not just the person that you're lead generating with, it's getting access to their entire sphere. Hey, Melanie, who do you know who's looking to buy, sell, invest in real estate? I understand that you just bought your house like a week ago, but who do you know who's looking to make a transaction in the next, call it 12 months? And
Dave,
yes.
excuse me, just a quick question for you.
Sure.
These the sellers that you had contacted that had a 4 or 5 year time frame.
Yes.
How often did you keep in contact with them? Via phone, email?
Great question.
Send something out to them like periodically, or?
Yes. So this is an awesome question. I'm going to give you kind of a broad level answer. Edward?
Yeah.
Edward. I'm going to give you a broad level question and we're going to dive in a little deeper shortly. But with these people, my relationship was more with the husband than the wife. I didn't know the wife all that well. I would call the husband every couple of months, quarterly, as is the KW model. I sent them my marketing material, which for me is a refrigerator magnet in baseball season with the Red Sox and a hockey, the same thing in the fall for the hockey schedule for the Bruins. So they got some of my marketing material. This was somebody who I was actually very close to personally as well. So he's one of my golfing buddies. So we would get on the course and say, hey, let me take you out for a round today. So I made sure that I was going to speak to this person several times a year, sometimes about real estate, sometimes not about real estate, just to keep the relationship. I remained in close proximity to him pretty much at all times. It was, in the magnitude of dozens of times a year, I would talk to this person. And that's how I communicate with my entire database. That he was not the exception in that regard.
Yeah, I want to just jump on something that Dave mentioned too. And I was talking to a lot of my coaching partners yesterday about this, that the communication, like the 19 touch, the 36 touch, the systems and tools that we're going to show you guys, they should not all be real estate. Okay. So I know that sometimes we feel this pressure of like, what am I going to say 19 times? What am I going to talk about 19 times or 36 times that's about real estate? Like they're just going to be tired of hearing from me. Yeah, they will. So make sure that when you're talking to your database or communicating with your database, it's not always about real estate. Okay. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule. So Dave went out for golf, sent them a gift. Yeah, it's kind of about real estate because it's got his real estate information on it, but he's just sending a gift. So part of the systems that you're putting in place, and we'll cover this in more detail, is it's what is natural for you, and you're just communicating with another human being. You do want to share relevant, valuable real estate information, but you also just want to call and say hi. Part of my 36 touch for the first quarter is social media. So for me, that means I'm going to go on their Facebook page. I'm going to look at what's going on in their life, and I'm going to either send them a direct message or comment on a post that has nothing to do with real estate. So it's not all just about real estate, if that helps anybody feel a little bit less pressure.
Let me give my favorite example of this too. So my favorite time of year to lead generate is the month of November. The month of November, because it's Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving is a time to express gratitude. I love having those conversations where I just speak to somebody and say, hey, you did X, Y, or Z for me. That was great for my family, my career, me personally, whatever. And I communicate to that person. And all November, I call up every single person I've ever done a transaction with. And I say, hey, I just wanted to express a gratitude for placing your trust in me so I can get you through a transaction and blah, blah, blah. That's how that conversation goes. I also call my inner circle, people who I haven't transacted with. I'll say, hey, I don't want to tell too much of my story, but several years ago, my daughter was in the NICU. She's totally healthy now, but she was born prematurely, right? So we spent a lot of time in the hospital, and a lot of people reached out to me and provided a lot of support. She happened to be born in November, of all things. So every November, I call up every single person who offered support, who came to visit us, who sent us a gift, anything while she was in the hospital. And listen, I know it was 8 years ago. That meant so much to me then. It still means so much to me. Thank you. And I just call people and I say thank you. And guess what? They still give you real estate transactions in those conversations, even though that's not why I was calling. So that's an example of a non-real estate conversation you can have as well.
So MREA, they talk about if you aren't the first or second in their mind, you probably won't get the business. And if you've been to any KW trainings or Bold or anything like that, you've probably gone through an example where they have you name, when you think of soda, what are the brands that you think of? And you write down one or two. And when you think of, cotton swabs, what's the brand that you think of? And there's one or two. It's the same exact thing with real estate agents, right? There's so many of us that if you throw a ball, you're going to hit 5 real estate agents on your way, right? So you have to make sure that you're the person that's providing the most value, and you're the one that's staying in communication with these people so that when they need to transact, you're that one or two that you think of. If you consider for yourself, just take a second to think about it. If you just sat for 5 minutes and thought about all the stuff you have to do and all the interactions that you had in one day and all the things that you saw driving down the street, and you went to the grocery store, and all of the sort of pieces of your environment that come in constantly all in one day, you've got to consider that somebody calling you about real estate when you don't need them, that's going to get lost in the shuffle. So don't take it personal. It's just a matter of time, literally a matter of time. And as long as you're in communication, you're going to be the person that they think of when they need to transact. All right. Can we have a couple people come off mute and share any ahas, thoughts, questions before we go on to the next part?
Yeah,
Hi.
I've got a comment.
Sure.
You mentioned that the time frame 7 to 10 years with a potential seller. A valuable tool in determining how long someone's been in their house is to go to your town or city's assessor's tax records, and you can check that, and you can see when the last conveyance was. And that can be, you know, if you have that piece of information, it goes a long way in determining how, you know, if you've got someone that's thinking about selling or not thinking about selling, or, you know, the assessor's tax records is a good place to go.
Yep.
There's another resource too that you guys might want to be familiar with that does the same thing, called Remine. Remine, it lets you like on a map feature, kind of like draw a polygon around an area or like a radius to find people who meet whatever criteria. It's people who have a certain amount of equity, people who have owned a property for a certain amount of time. Guys, there are any number for you like data-driven agents. There are lots of resources like Edward was just sharing. Absolutely.
Kat, you were going to share?
Yeah, it's just nice to hear like I'm a newer agent, so I feel like there's a lot of pressure to lead gen and like start cramming real estate down everybody's throat because it's being crammed down my throat. So it's so nice to like not feel that pressure anymore.
Right. This is so one of Melanie, I don't think Melanie you used the word, but what I was hearing when you were saying was authenticity, right? Melanie and I are close friends. We work very closely in the office. Our careers have a lot of parallels, yet our personality and way we interact with our spheres is completely different. Yet we have both found ways to be successful. I don't think that I could manage my business the way that Melanie manages hers, and I know she wouldn't want to manage her business the way that I manage mine. So, Kat, you're exactly right. You want to find something that works for you. Some vessel of communicating the information, what information you're communicating and how you're communicating it. Because guys, like real talk, people can see straight through you when you're not being authentic. And if I can see straight through you and I don't like what I see, I'm not going to hire you. People hire me all the time. And I say this all the time. People hire me because they like me. They know me, they like me, they trust me. The fact that I know that I'm an established real estate agent who knows a lot about the industry, that's a bonus. People hire me because of me, and people are going to hire you because of you, especially at this stage of your career, Kat. You say you're a new agent, right? People are going to hire you because they know you, like you, and trust you. That's why the advice that comes from KWRI to top agents and coaches to instructors down to all of you is start with your sphere. Start with people who already know you, like you, and trust you, because contacting them is free. Contacting them is fast. And it's the most likely avenue for you to get that new business. And additionally, it's the easiest people with whom to be authentic because they already know you a little bit. So yeah, you're 1,000% correct.
Absolutely.
I'll add into that. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Sorry. My biggest fear is like I pride myself in being a genuine person, and like my biggest fear is coming off very salesy or like very MLM-y.
We hear this so much.
I was just gonna say, so one of the things that I tell agents, either when you're a brand new agent, or if you were a secret agent for way too long, like I was, and then you like kind of come out and you're like, hey, I'm a real estate agent, and I've been one for like 6 years and I just never talked to you about it. There's this like fear, and again, you're like, I want to be genuine, but I want to do business with the people that I know. So like I have to talk to them somehow. And I always tell people, think of give, take, right? Like there's sort of this timeline or almost evolution of a real estate relationship with people. So I was sharing with one of my mentees, in my database, the way that I tier people in my database, and you've probably heard this, like VIP, MVP, or ABC, 1, 2, 3, whatever, kind of how I delineate people in my database is, if they're an A, that means that I have a real estate relationship with them and I'm actively getting business from them or from someone they know, right? For me, I don't quantify it. Some people quantify it. Totally fine either way. B is, we have a real estate relationship, but I may not be getting business from them or referrals from them. And then C is, we have a relationship, but it's not a real estate relationship, right? So for me, it's sort of like I need to earn the right to ask for that business. Now that's different if it's a lead that raises their hand and says, I want to do business right now, let's transact, right? But for newer agents or for people that are trying to kind of reestablish that business, just think of it as an evolution. And first, is just calling to say hi and checking on them, say, how are you doing? We love the Ford script. We talk about that all the time with our agents because it's just a very natural way to have a conversation. But don't feel like that lead generation and lead follow-up has to be all about real estate. It should just be about creating a relationship and then turning that into a real estate relationship, which will then provide you business, if that's helpful.
That's right. I just got a seller lead, and Amanda, I see your hand up. We'll get to you just in a moment. I got a seller lead. This is literally not 48 hours ago, where this is a person in my young athletic skinny days, I played baseball with this person like 15 years ago. And I text them every now and again about real estate. I call them about real estate. And the responses I wound up getting at some point were along the lines of, Dave, it's going to be a while. All right. Like the kids is probably not until they're out of college, and his kids are like 12. Right. That's okay. I'm caught him at the bottom of the trough. I'm going to catch him on the way up again. But I'm going to keep providing him value and putting him on my plans. Right. But to your point, Kat, not just constantly jumping down like, hey, you want to sell your house? Hey, you want to sell your house? Because it's been communicated to me that that's not something that's happening, but I still want to stay in close emotional proximity. And I play golf with this person now. I brought him I went to the gym with him the other day. And as we were leaving, he's like, hey, I got bad news. My wife and I are splitting up. I might actually probably need your services pretty shortly. I hadn't had a real estate conversation with this person in over a year and a half, but I have seen him and spoken to him several times, and he gets my emails. And then he came to me, right? Because I provided that value. And I did so, and I think this is why I bring this up, Kat, is because I generated this lead without being super salesy and constantly shoving real estate down his throat. I think that's the kind of important thing to think. So just that authenticity point is a massive point. I know Amanda had her hand up. I didn't, and then it went down. Amanda, do you still have a question, Amanda?
Yes. So it had to do with like your tiers of contacts and like ABC or whatnot. And I guess like how often do you refresh which tier they're in? And then do you change the smart plan that they're on according to what tier they're in?
So me personally, none of that. So just being real, I don't necessarily have a system based just on what tier they're in. For me, it's more of a gauge when I'm doing follow-up or I'm doing lead generation. It's a tag. It's literally a tag in command. Right. So that when I'm communicating with them, because remember, guys, the system doesn't change, right? So we're going to talk about a 19 touch and a 36 touch. So everybody's on the same system. It's just when it comes to what the content or context is of that communication, that's going to vary depending on who that person is, right? So I don't measure, again, I don't really quantify like, oh, how many transactions does it count for them to be an A or whatever. There's a lot of agents that do. And if you use the MREA models, they talk a lot about allied resources, and they kind of give you a framework that you can use. So I don't quantify it, but I think that's very dependent on the agent. So I would encourage you guys to think about in your mind, how would that look for you, right? And there's no right answer to this, guys. You decide what feels right, what counts as a certain tier. And it would be a really smart idea to kind of, in your mind at least, have some idea of how do they move into that next level. And some people will do, as anybody has read Perk Your Sphere, I think they talk a lot about like how she tiers her database, and then certain levels get certain access to things or certain gifts or things like that. So I think there's no right answer on how to do that. Just come up with what that system looks like for you. Sorry that wasn't really a straightforward answer, but
I do have a straightforward answer. So like, because I would to share this perspective as well. So future sessions of Ignite will kind of give you guys a default rating system. And Amanda, I know that you've seen this because you've been in Ignite with us in our market center. They at least define an A buyer as somebody who is willing, ready, and able to, or able, ready, and willing to purchase a property or to do a transaction within 14 days. So one way you can do it is by proximity to the transaction. So if that's how you're going to do it, to answer your question about how readily I move people up or down, I have zero issue moving somebody up. In fact, the intention is to move them up as they get closer to doing a transaction. From at least how I manage my database, it's a lot easier for people to move up in my system. I'm very reluctant to move them down just because I'm aware of that trough of time, right? So the very short answer to that question is I move people up in my tiers pretty aggressively, and I move them down almost never unless I'm basically instructed to do so by that person. There's a person that Melanie introduced me to. He says it kind of tongue in cheek, but he says, how long should you be lead generating with this person? And say, how long? He goes, until they're dead. And like, I don't want to move that person down unless something crazy and extreme like that happens. But again, I move people up more easily than I move them down in my tiers personally. I
archive people all the time. It's kind of my favorite thing to do in my database. Like for me, right. And this is, again, you guys are independent contractors. So the way that you operate and manage your business is completely up to you. Brad Knowles, his business planning clinic is probably the best and will always be my favorite class. One of my favorite classes that I've ever taken with KW. And he talks about like, how long do you keep a lead, right? Like, and there's no straight answer to that either. Some people say 1 year and then they boot them out of their database. Some people say, if I don't get any reaction from them after that 19 touch, then I boot them out of the system. It's completely up to you. What I do is kind of a combination of both. If I've done a 19 touch and it's been a little bit of time and they've never responded to anything, I might not boot them, but I might like put them in a separate list, right? Where I might email them once a month or something, because when I'm lead generating my database, I want my database to be people that I'm actually going to do business with. So, and this is kind of getting off topic, but my database is not filled with every single person I know, because I know me personally, I won't do business with every single person I know. And I probably don't want to do business with every single person I know. And not all of them want to do business with me. So they're still in my phone. I'm still going to contact them for whatever, but they're not in my database, because when I wake up in the morning and I go into command and I open my contacts and I start lead generating, I want it to be an efficient use of my time with people that I know I could potentially do business with. So if I know at some point that they're not going to do business with me, I take them out. So, and again, that's sort of, it depends on each agent and the way that you want to operate your business. And there's really no right or wrong answer to that.
Right. That's a really good, like, established agent perspective, where you're doing business with people that you want to do business with. And when you say something like that, it implies that there is a group of people that maybe I don't want to do business with. Now, to you all as new agents, I am going to absolutely encourage you to do business with absolutely everybody who wants to do business with you, not just so you can learn the industry and learn what kind of agent you are and what kind you want to be, because of the money, guys. We've got to get that career started. But as you grow into a career where you're doing 15, 20, 40, whatever deals a year, you might find that there is a certain personality trait that you've identified that you just don't want to deal with. I don't know. I don't know if you can tell from the everything about me. I don't do great with type A personalities who are like super hardcore, factual, data-driven people. There's no mesh there for me. So I might refer that person to a trusted friend and colleague like Melanie, who is very good with that kind of person. I feel a great weight when I am spending time with that person, and it impacts everything else that I do. It's actually better for me personally and professionally to refer that out. And I can make that choice because I spent years lead generating and have built up a pretty loyal referral base. And I'm telling you that you guys will find that at some point too. I have a lot of people coming to me now for like commercial real estate. Oh man, I have no interest in commercial. I refer all of it out because that's not the agent that I want to be. And it's okay for you guys to think about, what kind of agent do I want to be? Do I want to go after first-time home buyers, listings? Do I want to do investments? Again, start out doing everything, but it's okay to identify a niche as you go.
All right, Dave, I'm going to hand it off to you and we'll talk about how do we actually do lead follow-up.
How to do lead follow-up. So I asked this question when I'm teaching Ignite in our market center an awful lot. Don't be ashamed if you don't have an answer, because I'm going to give you the answer. But guys, why do you join a company like Keller Williams? And Amanda has heard this because she's taking Ignite with me. But why do you join Keller Williams? One of, if not the biggest reason, is all of the systems and models that we have, right? KW is a company that is built on the idea of giving you systems and models to follow and execute in your own businesses. The big one that was put in front of me as I joined, turn that off, that as I joined Keller Williams 10 years ago, the big one that was put in front of me was the 33 touch. Notice I say 33 because that has evolved in time to be what you see on the right of your screens, the 36 to connect. When we say 36 touch, by the way, that's what we're talking about. But because now we're more clearly defining what leads are, what contacts are, and we're talking about different systems to put people in based on who they are and what they are in your database, we have this pretty clear-cut, how do we say it, customizable structure that you can put your leads and contacts in, okay? If you're looking for a single system and model out of the KW data bank, this is the one. So take your phones out and take a picture of this screen, or save whatever is in your student packet, because this is the big daddy of them all. So let's talk about the 19 to connect on the left side of your screen. Now, as earlier we defined leads as somebody who wants to do a transaction at some point, but you don't yet have permission to have a two-way conversation with, right? I call up Melanie. Melanie's not a realtor in this example. I call up Melanie. She's got a cousin who wants to sell. That's a lead, but I don't have any way to get in touch with the cousin. The cousin doesn't know who I am. So that person is not yet a contact. Now, I would love to get that person who is a lead into my lead follow-up system, which is going to be the 19 to connect. So I am going to ask Melanie for that contact information. I want their email. I want their phone number. If I can get their physical address, that's great too, because sending out marketing and promotional material is part of it, right? You might not be able to get that in one conversation. That's okay. But this is the information that I want. I think it was it Edward's point earlier? I forget who said it. Brian, maybe, about it's somebody who you have all their information for. That's about right. And I'm going to be communicating with those people based on my system. And the first part of the system that you want to put these people on while you're working on turning them into a contact, as you grow them in the chain, 4 touches are a quarterly phone call. Sorry, guys, you got to pick up the phone. You're in real estate, got to make that call. especially when you're starting out. I do often say, it's like, listen, I would rather you be somebody who sends text messages and social media direct messages than do nothing. But I also know that if you are the agent who makes the call, you're going to be the agent who's closing the deals. Because other than being physically in front of them, the phone call is the easiest and most effective way to communicate and convert leads. End of story, data proven, it's been that way for decades. So non-negotiable quarterly phone call to all of these people as you're working on changing them from a lead to a contact, right? But good news, guys, it's not all phone calls, because one of the things you can do is a monthly touch that's going to be an email, newsletter, market report, some kind of video, something like that. 12 touches. You see that as the second thing there. So again, when I say 19 to connect, it's not 19 phone calls, it's 4. And then 12 are going to be this kind of material. And if you get their email address, guys, a smart plan and command, as I think Amanda alluded to earlier, is a fantastic way to send this data to them automatically. I don't know how well versed you all are in command. I know that you're new agents and you're having an entire industry kind of being thrust upon you all at once. For those that aren't aware, command is our CRM, our client relationship manager. Within command, we have something called a smart plan. A smart plan is a series of mostly automated touches to people. There is a smart plan that was made by KWRI, which is a bi-weekly neighborhood update. So I live in North Smithfield. I can sign up for a North Smithfield neighborhood update, and I actually get that more frequently than monthly. So anybody in your databases that you have email addresses for, you can put them on this immediately, right? Super easy. 2 of these 19 touches.
Can I
sorry, go
just
ahead.
interject there for 1
Please do.
second? So the other thing too about the neighborhood snapshot, and guys, we'll give you a bio break at 10 o'clock, but the neighborhood snapshot, if you don't have their address, then you can't add them to the smart plan, right? So 1, that's an opportunity for you to make a phone call and just ask for their address. And again, you don't have to be stressed out about, oh, how am I gonna, I don't send stuff in the mail. Like, it's awkward to call them about their address. No, it's not. Hey, it's Melanie. Happy New Year. I'm cleaning up my systems and stuff, and I noticed that I don't have a mailing address for you. Would you mind sharing your mailing address? That's it. That
Super easy.
simple. Don't have to like, oh, I want to send you some real estate stuff and I'm going to send you these cool, don't worry about any of that. Okay. Just, hey, I'm cleaning up my systems. I'm getting all of my stuff ready. The new year, cleaning house. Just notice that I don't have your mailing address, right? Don't put a lot of pressure on it. Same thing with an email. Hey, it's Melanie. It's the beginning of the year. I'm trying to like clean up my systems and I noticed that I don't have an email address for you. Would you mind sharing it? Don't worry, I won't spam you. I might just share some really cool real estate information once in a while. That's it, right? Like, you don't have to make this a difficult thing, but it's a good way for you to bring up a conversation. The other thing is too, if they're in your database and you don't have an address and maybe it's a lead, you've never spoken to them, whatever, just pick one and assign a neighborhood, right? So if you got a lead and it's like, oh, my cousin wants to buy a house, probably somewhere in like South County, just pick a random few neighborhoods in South County and add them to that contact and put them on the neighborhood smart plan. Now, again, they have to have given you permission to send them things, right? Permission means if they've clicked on your Facebook ad or they've clicked on some ad or they've put their email address on some type of promotional material, then they've given you that permission. But you can't go just take an email list that you bought somewhere and start emailing a bunch of random people, okay? But don't get hung up on the I can'ts. Figure out a way that you can and just get creative with it and have conversations.
It's a shame that we're doing this class in January, because the best time for this to get all this accurate information is December. Like, hey, I'd love to send out my Christmas card. I just don't have your address, right? Melanie, could I do an impromptu script with you very quickly?
We have 5 minutes, but yes.
Super quick, yeah. So those of you who maybe have never really thought of a plan for this, this is how you can execute this with people that are your friends and family and like trusted kind of like inner circle already. I'm going to call Melanie, who is not a realtor in this example, but is a good friend of mine. Ring, ring.
Hello. Hey, Dave. What's up?
Hey, not much, Melanie. How are you?
Good. I haven't heard from you in a long time.
I know. Sorry about that. I'm actually I actually just took a class today, and they're trying to get me to be better about that. And I'm calling you because you're a friend. I'm actually looking for a little help with my real estate career, which I just joined Keller Williams a couple weeks ago, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So this class that I took today, they showed us this plan of how they want us to communicate with our friends and family. I just kind of want to try it out and see how it looks. So could I get your mailing address and your email address just so I can send you some stuff, and then maybe you can help me out and give me some feedback on what you're receiving. Is it too much? Is it not enough? Is the content good? I trust you, and I think you're somebody who can help me out with that.
Sure. I don't
Awesome.
mind that.
Cool. And then I would just get her address and her email. Guys, people love helping their friends. Don't you love helping your friends? If one of your friends one of your preferee called you and says, hey, I need some help with this, you're going to help them. Guys, people are going to help you too. So if this is information you need, don't be shy about calling it and getting it, especially from your close friends and family. So now that I have that mailing address, and thank you, Melanie.
Yep.
Now that I have that address, now I can send that person my promotional mail, maybe my business card. I'm a new agent. I just got my business card. Like, hey, here's my business card. I can send that kind of stuff out. I mentioned magnets that I send out to my database. This is those two touches. And you'll see some overlap in this too, because I'm still doing this with people who have advanced passive leads and into contacts, right? And then one annual touch will be a party, some kind of get together. When Melanie was talking about being authentic and tailoring this to you, this right here, this is probably the best example of where you can really be authentic to you. What kind of event are you inviting people to? Are you conducting a giveaway on social media? Are you renting out a movie theater for your friends and family while you're doing a promotional kind of thing? Like, you can really get creative with this and just build the trust that people have in you. So again, this is a system that is designed to get people to move down your funnel, which remember starts at the top. It's a lead at the top, and then a contact is next. And then all the way down to closings, right?
Can I just interject for 1 second on the annual event? So a lot of times, and when I share examples, I kind of share based on like things that I went through or moments where I had to grow, and the idea of an event just was in my brain was so overwhelming. Like and this is I told you guys in the beginning, remove the should have, supposed to's, just remove that from your brain, okay? Because especially with Keller Williams, we have so much content and so many amazing millionaire real estate agents that will share all of their business. And sometimes you're just like, there's no way that I could do all of that everybody else does. So you don't have to, okay? So
Right.
For me, the idea of doing an event in itself was like, that's so much, because I'm neurotic and I'm like, that's so many steps and there's so many like processes that have to be done, and there's so much material that has to be done. Dave would just be like, hey, come over my house, and whoever shows up, right? Me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have this all structured. And so events don't have to be some big, huge, elaborate thing, right? It could just be getting a few people together for dinner, right? That's it. It doesn't have to be some huge dooming whatever. If anybody is a part of the Pivot community, or if you've heard of Meg Day in Chicago, she does these micro events. So she has like a very small sphere of people, and she does really small little like paint nights, and it's 10, 12 people. These events don't have to be some enormous thing. So if there's some pressure around that, remove it.
Yeah, we're not trying to put on prom. You know what I mean? Like, it can be super basic. Like Meg Day, I saw her speak at Family Reunion, and she was talking about like micro events at that. I was like, oh, that's so smart. Because like Melanie, I thought I had to throw this like huge swanky soiree where just people came with tuxes and gowns, and I was gonna have to spend thousands of dollars to do it. It's really not that at all. Especially when you have allied resources who sponsor it for you. But that's a conversation for another day. It is 10 o'clock. We'd like to give everybody a break for, what do you say, Mel? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
10 minutes. So let's all get back at 10:10. We're gonna hang out here for a couple minutes if you have questions or comments before we get rock and rolling again in just a few. I did say I would hang out for questions, so if I need to take a bio break, then tough luck for me. Jay, I'm gonna do that. I will be right back. Kim, I think of all the sessions of Ignite I taught, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I don't know. You're so good at teaching them all that I can't tell anymore.
Well, I don't know about that, but there it was this one, the lead follow-up session. Like, I mean, having been talking about what our jobs are for so long, and really honestly, only in the last like 18 months, being like, wow, lead follow-up is like massively, massively, massively important. I generate leads like nobody's business, but following up with them has not always been a strength. That's a new skill. But it's like this one, the next one, and the one after are so good.
And it's
It's
not
so
even
good.
you guys. I mean, me too. I'm terrible with the lead follow-up, and this is just really smacking me in the face like I have to lead follow-up too.
This is where when Melanie and I, again, I talk about, we might as well be the same person. When I talk about the parallels that I have that we have in our careers, when we started lead generating together, it was going through all those people we had lost contact with and like, oh, there's another one who did a deal with somebody else that I wasn't paying attention to. Like that happened over and over. An agent who shall not be named, who used to lead generate with us, had that happen, I think was about 7 times in like one day. Like his first day lead generating with us as a group, he had 7 people that he had failed to communicate with, which is like almost $2.5 million in sales going by the average price point, which is enough to cap in our market center. He missed capping. And then like, it's like, that could be your entire annual income. You missed a year of income by not following up. It's massively, massively important.
I'll tell you, I gave one of my friends, she was buying a house, and I gave that lead to an agent who will remain nameless, about 5 years ago. And it's obvious that the agent never kept in touch because her daughter just was on Facebook this morning, just bought a house.
Woof.
And I'm like, come on.
That gets so frustrating because in doing what we do, we talk about like, I mean, I don't want to view everybody as an income opportunity, but obviously we're in this to make a living. We only get one income opportunity per decade with these people. And if you miss the one, that's such a large chunk of your maximum potential. And it's another obstacle who stands in your way of getting that person's next piece of business, that person's next referral, because now you're not the agent who helped them accomplish it. Now somebody else did it. So you lost on that and everything else. Our OP says all the time, it's not about the person you're working with, it's about the 3 people under them.
Mhm.
Right? And building that constant, that perpetual referral train going forward. How are we doing? 10-10. I'm gonna give everybody a chance to come back in. Where are you? I swear I saw this person's name. Jesse Strange in the house. My bold teammate, Jesse Strange, is in the house today.
We're 10-10, so Dave, you can get us started again.
Let's go. Where were we? Actually, Mel, if you could go back.
I don't know that oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah. She says, hi. I've taken bold with Jessie twice. She is a hell of an agent. Very, very smart, driven person. Okay, so just before we moved on, we've had like 10 minutes to kind of like handle our own stuff outside of this. I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions or comments or thoughts about this before we kind of head on to the next step. We're going to come back to what the rest of the slide is later, so we're not worried about 1 to cement or 36 to connect just yet. But it seems like we're good on 19 to connect for now.
Dave, I just want to mention, I'm glad you mentioned Jesse, because guys, this Ignite isn't just for new agents. So even though you take it, Jesse is very seasoned, still taking Ignite. So don't just take it and then never look at it again. So thanks, Dave, for bringing that up.
Of course. Yeah, and I think Jesse's actually outproduced me over the last 6 months. So good job, Jesse. I wanted to give this example of how I have a 19 to connect before I kind of move on to the next page. I'm a big social media person. Like social media is how I run my business, and I'm using Command to do ads to get in front of people that I don't know, right? So if I have a listing, or Melanie has a listing, or any of my mentee agents have a listing, or if any of you have a listing that you want somebody to advertise for you, I'm happy to do it. I throw out an ad through command on social media, and whoever clicks on that ad gets automatically entered into my database. But once they're in my database, now what? I can use command to set them up automatically on a smart plan. And what touches should I put on the smart plan? Probably exactly what's on the left side of the screen, right? I should have a note to call them every quarter. They should go on my the biweekly neighborhood snapshot email that I referenced earlier. And if they click on a listing that I have in, say, Smithfield, that neighborhood, I can assign them the neighborhood of Smithfield, and they'll receive listings in there. I will reach out to them the same way that I modeled to reach out to Melanie. Like, hey, I just love an opportunity to send you some of my material, if that's okay. I mean, blah, 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 whatever I say. And then hopefully I get that person's contact information. And then when I do my annual event or my semi-annual event or whatever I plan to do with that, I'm going to invite that person, which is another series of touches anyway, right? So there are and like you can kind of see there where if you're like a close friend who has a referral, that 19 to connect might look a little different for Melanie's cousin or whatever example I had, or if that person is a Facebook lead coming in. So it's okay to have different versions of this based on the lead. That's kind of what we opened the whole thing by talking about, right? Okay, so that was just the point I wanted to make on that, Melanie, if you want to kind of advance our slides here. So lead follow-up best practices, guys. We've been talking a lot about authenticity. What are your strengths when working with people? What do you think the chances are that we're all good at the same things? Right? Do we all communicate in the same way? Lord knows, I hope you don't all communicate like me. That would be a disaster for the real estate buying and selling public out there. We can only handle one me, right? So you want to identify what your strengths are, what values that you can provide, and provide them. So how can you adapt the 19 touches to adapt to you? Melanie mentioned Meg Day Day, the high producing agent in Chicago. Micro events. That's fantastic. That's really authentic to her. She likes to do that.
You guys should have a page in your participant guide for this too. And I would encourage you to jot some thoughts down to
Yes.
these, put some answers down on paper. And be kind to yourself, guys, right? Like, don't always be critical of yourself. Dave has helped me to learn that, to not be so critical, right? Give yourself a little bit of grace. We're all good at some things, right? We're not all bad. So think about some of the things that you're good at. And be real with yourself. It's okay to be good at stuff. So jot some stuff down that you think are strengths for you. Or if you've done some business and you've had transactions and clients have made comments to you about what they enjoyed, jot some of that stuff down.
I just want to repeat something you said. That's maybe my favorite thing you've ever said. It's okay to be good at stuff, guys. And it's okay to acknowledge that. So acknowledge what you're good at. That's not even a real estate thing. That's just something that made me feel kind of fuzzy. So here's another one. I think this actually goes kind of to what Kat was mentioning earlier. What are some reasons that I might have for contacting the lead? Yeah, obviously I'm contacting them because I want to transact with them. I might rephrase this question a little though. What are some values that I can provide to this lead, regardless of their proximity to their next transaction, right? Let's unmute for a moment and throw some stuff at me there. What are some things that we can provide to our spheres that are not necessarily specifically real estate related? I'll kick it off by reminding you of the gratitude example that I gave for my November lead generation. I call people up and I offer thanks. So give me one or two more that we can call our people and offer that don't have anything to do with buying or selling real estate with us. I'll give you another one. This was actually a monster success of mine from 2021, where a friend of mine called me up and he was saying, "Hey Dave, I think I need to sell my house." I said, "Hey, that's great. I'd love to be the person to do it." As I continued to communicate with this person about this, it became clear that he didn't really want to sell his house. He loves his house. He loves his area. The problem is he's like 6'5", and his kids are also probably going to be 6'5". They're massive humans. They live in a cave, slanted ceilings, bedrooms upstairs. They physically cannot fit in their house. So that was his motivation for selling. And he kept saying, it's like, I wouldn't sell if I didn't have to, right? The value that I provided to that person was a connection to a mortgage lender that I know to get some equity out of the property that he owns to renovate his house in such a way that they could fit. He was able to take out like $120,000 of equity in his property, take off his roof, dormer everything. So now it looks more like a colonial than a cave. And he got to stay in his house. Guys, that kind of stunk that I didn't get a real estate transaction, but I did create a raving fan who has referred 4 pieces of business to me in the following 2 years, right? So what we're talking about there is the idea of equity. And I'm not going to get so deep into all of the value that equity has. That's a conversation for another day. But the equity is a massive opportunity for building wealth for anybody who owns property, right? Anybody you know who's owned a property for, call it 3 years or more, probably has a good amount of equity. It might make sense to call them and be like, hey, I'm not even talking about buying or selling your house. I'm just offering free equity analysis to my entire sphere. That's a piece of value. That's not about buying or selling. Yes, it's about real estate, but it's not about buying or selling. That's something that you can do.
So
Another,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, you go.
So Dave is giving really awesome examples of what you say to people that are in your sphere that you might know. When it comes to things that you can say to leads, like, you want to make sure that, again, you're not just the, hey, do you want to sell a house today? Hey, do you need to buy your house today? Hey, is today the day? Is today the day? So part of this is when you're doing lead follow-up is being intentional about what you're going to say, right? Don't just pick up the phone and go into lead gen without having any idea of what you could possibly be saying to them, right? Part of that is being in the market, right? So I'm sure you've covered this in previous sessions of Ignite is, so we're not just sitting in our houses or sitting at our office waiting for people to call, and we're not just lead generating, right? We are being aware of the market. We're going into the MLS and looking what has come on and what has come off. We're looking at NAR stats and what was the latest things that NAR has been sharing. We're, going to CE classes, and we're going to, events put on by a lender. We have a weekly lunch and learn in our office that our lender hosts, and every single week we're talking about what's going on in the mortgage market, right? So if you're in the market, if you're physically going and looking at houses, right? You don't need a client to preview a house. You don't need a client to go to an open house. Be in the market, and then when you call, you have something to say other than, hey, do you want to buy a house today? It could be, hey, I just thought of you, no pressure, but we had this great talk today with our mortgage partner about this 2-1 buy down. We had an agent use it on his listing. Give an example or give some information that you could share with them that's valuable. You're looking like you're a resource, but you're not just calling to hammer them for business, right? So being in the market, learning, having something to talk about is going to make that lead follow-up way more efficient, right? Because you don't have to think about what are you going to say, and it's showing value to someone other than just asking for something. That give, take, the give, take concept, like provide enough so that you've earned the right to ask for the business.
Right. And that doesn't even have to, like, we're talking about this in the context of a phone call. It doesn't even have to be the phone call. Remember, part of the those 12 monthly touches, that could be where you put some of this valuable content. And the offer of an equity analysis might be something that you send out in your monthly email. Melanie mentioned the lunch and learns that we have in our office with our mortgage partner that we work with. Every single week, that's a piece of social media content for every single agent in there, and it's valuable. A lot of it, guys, I mean, those of you who are calling your spheres and talking to buyers say, yeah, I'd love to buy a property right now, but I can't because interest rates are so high. Well, it's probably worth creating some content and some communication around the idea that projections are that rates could come down and the reasons behind that, to position yourself as the market expert. So if you do that, like every week, there's like a Facebook post that you put out there, like, oh, just meeting with my mortgage lender to do blah, blah, blah. When that person who maybe doesn't want to buy a house now, but does it in August, has been seeing your content, over multiple touches over what is an extended period of time, they call you, right? So some reasons that you're contacting this leads to provide value and information. I say this all the time. I don't view myself as a salesperson. I view myself as a provider of education. The education that I provide actually has people coming to me with business. You can cast a wide net in that regard.
Can we have anybody come off mute or maybe put some ideas in the chat of stuff that you've done or have thought about doing to help with providing value to leads? Anybody want to share? Or things maybe that you've tried that didn't work?
Yeah, you can workshop some of that stuff too. All right, you guys can put that stuff in the chat while I continue kind of down our list here. How am I using these conversations to let the person know that I'm in real estate and how they can refer business to me? Melanie said this earlier, and it's kind of one of the more obvious things we say that you don't really think about until somebody forces you to think about. People don't understand how this works. People don't understand how we get paid, right? That's why it's so important to ask others to refer business to you. That's why the question is, who do you know who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Not just, when are you going to buy or sell a house? Who do you know who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? The implication is I am hoping that you are going to refer somebody to me to do a transaction with, be it today or sometime in the future. If you don't ask for that person, they're not going to refer business to you when the time comes. The analogy I make to this, if I wanted to ask somebody out on a date, I'm not just going to go sit at a restaurant and hope somebody sits down across the table from me. I'm going to ask somebody to come out, because why would anybody else expect that? No, you need to communicate to your sphere that this is the expectation. This is what you're hoping to get. I will provide value to you over time. The only thing I'm ever going to ask of you in return is an opportunity to do business with you or somebody you know. So think about what's authentic to you, so that you can use these conversations to let them know that you're in real estate and how they can refer business to you.
And Dave does a great job of telling stories, right? So that's an easy way for you guys to do this, right? So if you're one of those people that's a little bit like, oh, I don't want to just go, hey, who do you know? It feels a little uncomfortable. Just tell a story. Listen, I was in such and such situation. I was talking to this guy, and then, he knows we only get business by word of mouth, really. So he gave me this client, blah, 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 and tell the story, right? Like use examples of things where people could relate, and then it causes a trigger in their mind. So I help run a monthly networking event in my area. And I tell people all the time when they stand up, part of what your little pitch should be is how should people give you business, and what questions or comments that people hear should trigger them to think of you, right? So you kind of give them scenarios in which they might come across a real estate need, and then you tell them like, hey, if you hear someone saying that maybe they're having a baby or they're going to be getting married soon, they're obviously going to need a house. It'd be great to mention me, right? Like help them think of how they can get you business. And sometimes that's by giving examples. Nicholas, you have your hand raised, go ahead.
Yes, hi. So I have a couple of coworkers who have told me that they're looking for apartments, and one of them is looking to buy a house within the next couple of years. He's looking for a multifamily property. But really, there's my coworkers and actually my manager who told me that they have a verbal lease that's expiring next month, and they have some urgency to go ahead and find another apartment. So I'm wondering, I'm doing like my research, I'm looking around for apartments, but do I just keep showing them consistently like the apartments that I find while I do my research, or how do I really go about making the transition from them being potential clients to actually getting an emotion?
So it sounds like you said the phrase potential client. It sounds like they're basically already clients, right? Because you're searching for a place for them to live. Now, you're talking about rentals now. Is your question more geared towards turning them into buyers, or like serving them as renters? Like what avenue should I go down here?
Well, yeah, I was thinking that I should go ahead, and it would be good for me to help them out find their rental property, since that's
Mhm.
the opportunity that came across. And then for that one man, I would want to help him in the future find a multi-property. Like I have showed him 5, 6 properties, and one of them he told me if you could set up tour of the house, I would love to go with you and visit it. So he's really like serious about it.
Mhm.
The other two are kind of just like, if you were to throw me like the apartment I'm looking for, I could tell they might be more interested, but I don't want to really bother them too much.
So this is great. So you just said, Nicholas, something that a lot of people say when your careers are starting is, I don't want to bother X, Y, and Z. What's great about your position, these people have given you permission to bother them. They have said, please send me real estate content. So don't at all feel shy about sending those people properties, because they're asking you to do that. Like that's the golden egg right there, right? Now, one piece of value that you can provide, not just to the person who says they want to buy a property, but to all of these people, is, have you considered purchasing a property? The average price to rent right now is actually just about the same as an average mortgage payment. Maybe even less if you buy a multifamily property. That might be the value that people see in the service that you're providing that they're not even aware of yet. There is a pretty large segment of the population that doesn't view home ownership as a reality. Now, I don't know everybody's personal situation, and I'm not going to ask. This isn't time for that. But a lot of us grow up in this is a good house and a good family, and we owned this house, and this is how I live. A lot of people also lived a great life growing up in apartments. That's their history. Real estate ownership is a foreign concept to a lot of people. So they're thinking about renting because that's just what we do. That person may never have thought about owning a property. And then if you're the person who introduces that concept to them and then executes it for them, and they're the first person who owned a property in like 3 generations in their family, you're a hero. You're not a realtor, you're a hero. You have created a super loyal fan base who cannot wait to refer business to you. So if you have, what'd you say, Nicholas, 6? If you have 6 of these people, even if you convert one of those potential renters into a buyer now, massive win. So my first step would be to get them to communicate with a mortgage lender that I know to convert that business from tenant into buyer. Now,
Can I
practically
just
speaking,
add a little, I just want to jump in quick.
sure, go ahead.
So I would encourage you, if you don't already, create a relationship with a really good lender, because the lenders have all the math and the data to back up what you're saying. So like our lender has this great tool where they can provide a visual that shows, here's the cost of renting versus buying. And they show long-term how much money you lose by renting instead of buying a house. And it could be a very, again, no pressure. Hey, Mr. Seller or Mr. Renter client, hey, our lender partner sent this today and I thought it was really cool and maybe wanted to send to you. I don't know if you've ever thought about buying instead of renting, but here's a visual that kind of shows long-term it's better to buy, right? And then start to at least have that conversation, and then you can get them connected to a lender.
That's right. And that's not being salesy. That's not bothering people. That's providing education. That's a massive value. So also practically speaking, Nicholas, I think you said you had six of these tenant leads. It's unrealistic to expect 6 tenant leads to become 6 buyer leads today. But imagine if you help one of them buy and 5 of them rent. Well, those 5 people who are renting property with you today are likely to become homeowners with you in the future. So continue providing that value as well. Because we're talking about that wave, right? Like that's a 7 to 10 year period between people transacting. It's a lot faster with renters. Renters might move every 12 months. So even if that person can't buy right now, I've got to work on my credit. It's like 520. It might be 620 next year, which is good enough to buy. So provide that service and understand that you're creating a relationship with them that is going to go forever as you provide value to them. I say this, you can use this if you want. I say this to people. I'm like, hey, when you do business with Dave Nielsen, we're not dating, we're married. We're in it for life. And it's okay to have that perspective. Provide value to them over that long period of time. Melanie is trying so hard not to roll her eyes at me when I say that, but that's okay.
I wanted to add in here too, because I think this is a great segue, and Nicholas, you can probably use this. If you have buyer leads, don't assume Now, this is buyer clients, buyer leads. Don't assume, oh, they're just going to go find their house on their own on Realtor, Zillow, whatever, right? So I make it very intentional that even if I know they're on the app, and even if I know they're getting the daily emails, and even if I know that they are getting or can get, they have access to get information about houses all on their own, I make sure that I am the one that's sending it to them anyway. With that being said, this is where the adding value part comes in, because every real estate agent that has someone in their database has them on an auto drip from MLS, right? So put yourself kind of ahead of the pack by, so what I do is I'll go and find a property, and I don't just pick any property. Part of your job in qualifying these people is getting to really understand what they want, why they want it, where they want it, why do they want it there, right? You really have to understand what your client is looking for. And then you go find a very specific property. And then you're going to send it to them. And I always send it from my app. I'll actually take out our consumer app. I look up the property myself on my own app, and then I share it from my app in a text message. And I say, hey, I saw this and I thought of you because, and then find a reason why you thought that property matched their need, and you send it to them. Okay. One of the number one things that people say, like if you ask someone what they think about real estate agents and there's some type of negative, it's that my agent didn't do anything, right? So this is one of those things where you can show them that you're doing something, right? That they're not just out looking for potential properties on their own. You're also looking. So you should send them a property every now and then, and make sure you take the time to figure out a reason why you think it works for them that matches the motivation that you figured out when you talk to them. That's way more impactful than just letting them get a drip, right? That will help you convert a lead faster. And if you use the app, I do that very intentionally, because now if they're in my app, I can track what they're doing in Command, and I can see what properties they're looking at. And then I have another reason to call them the next time.
Yeah. Nicholas, I hope
That
that's
makes sense.
helpful.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. That's, you got a lot there. That's what value can I provide to turn them into buyers? What value can I provide for them now? How can I provide that? What avenue, like the app, can I do that with? This is,
And honestly, even off what you guys said, I posed myself the question, like, is it worth it to, the answer is yes, because on the long term, I'm building the relationship. So, but is it worth it to invest my time to go ahead and do a rental transaction? Or is it really the type of thing where you put more into it that you get out of it?
Yep. Yeah, and it's tough, but you're right, Nicholas. It's the long-term view, because in the short-term view, guys, like working with tenant clients isn't going to make you a lot of money. So it's going to feel like you spent a lot of time and didn't get a lot out of it. Yeah, for a year, and then 5-6 years maximum. Think of all the loyal raving fans you created in your database who are going to want to transact with you. Guys, when I started my career, I was a rental agent on a team in Providence, and I did, I don't know, like 100 something rentals. I did that for 2.5 years. Then when I joined KW, guess who were the first people I called? People who I did those transactions with, and now they're my buyers. Right? It was a long game play. Exactly, Nicholas. So like those people who are renting, maybe they're renting because it's going to be a couple years. Maybe they're moving here from an area and they want to scout it out. Maybe they're going through a divorce. Maybe their credit is shot. Like, who knows? But eventually those people are going to want to buy a property, and it's up to us to provide value during the time so that we are in their way when they get to the top of the hill there.
I want to share what Amanda put in the chat, because I think it's awesome. She said that she sends personalized Facebook birthday messages, and if she has their cell phone number, she gets a text or a call instead. And she does a video, which is huge. So another part of this, guys, and we talked about it in the beginning and all the way through, is you want this to be authentic, right? How authentic is it if you take the time to record a video to say happy birthday to someone and send it to them in a text message, right? Like, we all get Facebook when it's my birthday, because I'm never on social media. That's the one day that like I have all of this Facebook activity, and no disrespect, but that doesn't get me excited that a bunch of people said happy birthday to me on Facebook. It just doesn't. Now, if you sent me a video text message on my birthday, I'm not forgetting you, right? And it humanizes you. Because this is the other part, is I think sometimes we all get stuck on like, I'm a real estate agent and I have to be a professional robot and everything I send has to be exactly. No, 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 no. People want to know that you're just a regular person, someone they can talk to and relate to. So the more that you humanize yourself, then you're going to have that much better relationship with these leads.
Absolutely. Guys, I don't know how many of you own, of course I get a call, so I can't show my screen. I don't know how many of you know have newer iPhones, but like on my iPhone home screen, it tells me how many people have birthdays today in my social media. How easy it is for me to open that and just send a happy birthday. Oh, it's foolproof. It's foolproof. So beautiful stuff. We
Right,
really
well
went down a road there. I appreciate that. All right, so I believe we left off at when's the best time for me in my business to time block for lead follow-up. Guys, I know as you're starting your careers, a lot of you are probably dual career agents right now. You don't have 48 hours to dedicate to lead generation, and maybe the hours that you do are, they're hard to come by, right? If you're somebody who has a 9-to-5 job, does it really make sense to time block your lead generation between 10 and 12? No, right? Because you're distracted by your other job. A lot of people say, oh, well, I can just lead generate on my lunch break. I appreciate your spirit when you say that. But on your lunch break, you're going to eat lunch, right? People who say that are generally not making those phone calls. Now you can send a couple of text messages, but remember we're talking about like phone call is kind of like the king of all these communications. The point is you're going to have a higher degree of success when you are time blocking time that makes sense for you to make those phone calls. If you have a dedicated hour, get everybody out of your system, get ready to make those calls, time block it, get your bunker set up, and make those calls at a time that makes sense for you. Because Melanie and Kim, I know you've heard this question 1,000 times. What's the best time for me to lead generate? Should I call in the morning? Should I call in the evening? And maybe there are statistics, there's data out there that says it's best to call at this hour versus this hour. Guys, the best time, let me do the Brad Knowles thing when we get really close to the camera. Guys, the best time is when it works for you, right? Make the call.
Yeah, the best time is when you will actually consistently do it.
Right. Yeah.
And I tell my dual career agents all the time, if you can only do 30 minutes a day right now, then do 30 minutes a day. And but it has to be, you have to go into it, like we talked about, knowing what you're going to say, knowing who you're going to call, whatever data or information you're going to need to do this lead follow-up, that all has to be ready and prepared. You don't spend the first 15 minutes of your 30 minutes getting ready, right? You get ready and then you lead follow up and lead generate for 30 minutes. And if it's just 30 minutes, that's great. And then you can grow from there, but do it whenever you're going to consistently do it.
Right. Yeah. So if you can quote unquote only do 30 minutes a day, well, guess what? You're doing 30 minutes more than a lot of other agents. And your career is going to start a heck of a lot faster than a lot of other people in the same position. Okay. So the next question here, how much time should it take to reach out to a lead? Guys, my preference is that you do so immediately. If it's an internet lead, it's like less than 5 minutes. So as quickly as you possibly can. Some deeper questions here though. What will I do to hold myself accountable? What do I need to do to make sure that this happens? Time blocking is a big one. But if I could just share my own personal experience on this, when I reference the parallels that Melanie and I have in our careers. Melanie and I were accountability partners for a period of years where we would call each other up in the morning and say, this is what I'm doing today. This is who I'm calling. This is what my conversations are going to look like. And this is when I'm doing it. And then we would communicate throughout the day. Did you do X, Y, and Z? And if we had, hey, great job, pat on the back. If we hadn't, okay, when are you going to make it up? These conversations, it's more about just saying I'm going to do something. It's also kind of about how awful it feels to say when I let something get in the way. And having that partner, that person who's holding you accountable, call you out on your stuff. Yeah, I wanted to, but like I had to fold the laundry. If you made all those calls, you might have got a deal and been able to pay somebody to fold your laundry. Like that kind of like really almost silly but very real stuff. Like that matters. Like it's so easy when you make your schedule throughout the day. The first thing you all guys, I don't say you guys, because I'm guilty of it too. The first thing we take off the schedule is the appointments that we have with ourselves. You will almost never cancel a doctor's appointment or the landscaper coming over if you have to talk to them, or any appointment with somebody else, you will never cancel that. I don't know why, but people will never cancel that. But the appointment that you make with yourself to time block and lead generate, where your average income per hour is like $200 to $250, oh, it's the first thing we take off the schedule. And then if you have that partner who you're talking to about that, say, hey, I decided that I would rather go have lunch with somebody for 2 hours than lead generate for those 2 hours. That's a tough conversation to have. So any accountability measure that you can have to put in there for yourself, anything that you know is going to make you do the task, that's what's going to work. So figure out what that something is. It's not always easy to figure out what that is, but figure out what it is and go for it. Go ahead now.
I was gonna say, a lot of times people pick accountability partners that they're comfortable with. That's probably not going to be helpful to you, right? Because being accountable to someone isn't just someone that's like, oh, great job, right? Accountability is somebody that you know, if you go to them the next time you talk and you have not done what you committed to doing, they're going to be disappointed, right? That's the accountability partner that you want. And not disappointed to the point where they're going to like discourage you and be critical or judgmental, but you in your mind, when you think about meeting with that person and going to them with not completing what you're supposed to, and you feel like, oh, I don't want to let them down. That's the kind of accountability partner you want. We're huge on coaching. If you guys are not in coaching in your office and you have productivity coaching available to you, we highly recommend it. It's probably one of the things that our office that kind of holds us together is our productivity coaching program. It's hugely important, especially when you have agents that have been in the business or are in the business and can relate to the things that you're going through. They're having conversations on a regular basis with leads so they can help guide conversations for you. I'm in MAPS Mastery Coaching. Like, coaching is huge accountability, and it helps you to not make excuses, and you're going to grow. I mean, that's just period. If you're in coaching, and if you can't afford coaching, or you don't have it available to you, just find an accountability partner that isn't always going to tell you when you have it right, but somebody that you don't want to let them down.
That's right. When Melanie and I were partners, it was never really that difficult for me to acknowledge my own shortcomings. But every morning when I had to talk to her and say like, hey, this is the stuff I didn't get done. Oh, it's a terrible feeling. That was awful. And a lot of times I'd be like, I'm just going to make my calls so I don't have to tell Melanie I didn't. And like I say that,
That's the kind of accountability that you need.
yeah. Nobody's scary. But that's real stuff. It sounds kind of goofy when we say it that way, but like that's real stuff, and it's like honestly tremendously helpful. And we went from people who were doing 4, 5, 6 deals a year to cappers and coaches in a period of less than 5 years. So it works too. So let's get into some of the design of how your programs can work. We have spent a lot of time focusing on 19 to connect specifically, and again, this is a lead. This is like as you're trying to get somebody to be a contact from a lead, right? So your four touches that are calls. It's interesting here even that it says calls, texts, or conversations. But what you want to do is connect with people quarterly, offer something of value, and ask for a referral. Let's hit this point again. I want to ask for referrals every time I speak to somebody, but it doesn't have to be the only reason that you call. So we're going to look for some examples of value that we can provide to people over time. The Remind expert example we were talking about, or going on to the town records as Edward suggested, and finding when the last time somebody transacted was. That's a great time to call somebody up and like, hey, I just wanted to know if you had ever given any thought to how much equity you have in your property. It's a value you can provide to those people even if they're not close to doing a transaction. It might actually encourage them to do a transaction when they realize their house is worth $150,000 more than they thought it was. Stuff to think about there.
I think you guys, I think you might have a page in your participant guide, maybe to help you come up with some of your own ideas. But I just wanted to point out, guys, this wasn't like a bunch of random real estate agents that got in a room and decided like, hey, maybe I want to try this out. No, this is based on Gary Keller's MREA, sitting down and interviewing hundreds, probably thousands at this point of millionaire real estate agents and what they do to help them be successful. This is it. So, you know, we're not telling you guys to try something out. Like, this has been proven that this is the best way to get a lead to convert to a point where you can create a relationship and turn them into business, right? So again, the material in which you use and the context and the content that you put into it can be different, but the system and the structure is already here for you guys, and it's already been proven something that works.
Success leaves clues, guys. These are the clues. These are the clues that have come from agents who are doing what we all strive to do, right? So as we move further down the list, we're looking at 12 annual occurrences of an email, a newsletter, market report, video, anything like that, etc. I feel like when I say this to somebody, like, yeah, we're expecting 12 of these instances of value to be provided over the course of the year. Everybody's like, oh man, where am I going to find 12 valuable things to share with people? I don't even know one. Look at what's actually in the plan. And this is an aha that I hope you guys take from this. Wow, that's actually not that difficult. This is actually pretty easy and manageable and something that I can do even if I don't have a real estate transaction under my belt or even any active clients. A birthday card, as Amanda said in the chat earlier. Birthday card or a birthday message, the birthday video, tremendous. Or market reports. Guys, a market report, it's not like a book report in high school. You can print these right off the MLS, right? There's data that you can get and send this to people. You don't have to come up and compile the data. You can take data that has been provided for you and send that report. That's valuable, right? Or informative videos. This is the one that people get hung up on a lot, I think. What am I going to talk about in a video? I don't know anything yet. Melanie referenced getting to know a good mortgage lender. One thing I say about mortgage lenders, guys, the relationship that you have with your mortgage lender is the most important relationship you have in this business. For me personally, like having been in it for 12 or 13, whatever years it is now, the most important relationship I have is my primary lender. That person has served as my mentor. That person serves as a partner who sponsors my events and activities. That person does videos with me. That person refers me clients. That person is massively valuable to me. So go out and find that person. And then in the context of this conversation, maybe that's the person doing the heavy lifting in your videos. One thing we talk about is doing first-time buyer seminars. And people are like, I don't know anything about first-time buyers. Great, you're not doing the heavy lifting. The lender is. The lender teaches that class. You get the butts in the seat, but the lender teaches that class, right? So just ask a mortgage lender and be like, hey, can we do like a 2-minute video on what interest rates you're doing right now? Melanie referenced a 2-1 buy down program, which is just a way for buyers to get their very high interest rates much lower, which your buyers need to know about. Find a mortgage lender that you know, like, and trust, and ask that person if they'd like to do a 60-second to 2-minute video about how that program works. You don't even have to say anything. That lender can do it. You're just the conduit through which people see it, right? 2 informative emails. That could be about the real estate market. That could be upcoming trends. That could be how to winterize your house. Just a quick reminder to clean out your gutters. We live in New England. Just a reminder to turn off your the water to your spigots outside. That's the right word. And then like one neighborhood newsletter. You have people
I was
who are
gonna
like,
say too, guys, one of the ways, so most of your business is going to come from people that you know or people they know, right? A lot of agents, I was one of them, love saying, well, I don't have a sphere, or I don't have a good enough sphere. I don't have a big enough sphere. I don't have okay, you do. Because even as someone that came from that world where I felt like I didn't have a good enough sphere, by the way, I just didn't treat them correctly for a long time. Some ways that other people, or if you've moved here from another country, okay, that's valid. You may not have a sphere. So a lot of agents immediately go to, what can I spend money on to get leads, right? I would encourage you, there's a lot of things that you can do that don't cost money to help you get leads. There are several agents that have talked on panels that are really big on community. So they just create a relationship with the community, or they form a community, right? So I got into real estate to open coffee houses. So that's my community of people, is all based on coffee and coffee house and whatever. So like I've created this community. So some of my content that I share might be more community focused. So if you're focused in one neighborhood or one farm, some of your emails or promotional stuff could just be, hey, did you see this event that's coming up, right? Share a Facebook event on Facebook with Facebook friends, or send out an invitation to some event that's going on, or a fundraiser that's at the school. Like, this doesn't all have to just be real estate stuff. It could be just data or information, resources that your community could use that aren't specific to real estate. So think about the stuff that you're involved in, right? The stuff that you enjoy doing, the places you like going, that could all become part of your communications and the touches that you use for your leads in your database.
Mhm. Melanie, you referenced the idea that a lot of people think they don't have a good sphere, or they don't have a sphere at all. If I could just show you guys mine, one that you all have. There it is. Your contact list that you have in your phone is your sphere. Even if they're not entered into command or any other kind of database, there it is. Your phone is a database you carry in your pocket, and you have all of these people that you can provide this value to. Okay. The other spheres that you guys have that you might not be acknowledging are your spheres, your social media, your Facebook friends list. That's a sphere. These are people that you can provide all of this value to, right? See how we're piecing together not just what you say, but how you say it, when you say it, how frequently you say it, who you say it to. That's why I love this particular session of Ignite so much. This, I feel like, is the turning point where you have spent 9 weeks building up into something. And then this is the pivot where it's like, this is how I execute it in a meaningful way that's going to get me business, right? Just following this up to finish up these, our contact points here. Promotional direct mail. I gave you guys mine. Feel free to do it. I do Red Sox schedules and Bruin schedules. I do Bruins, even though more people like the Patriots, because the Bruin season is twice as long. So my magnet is on somebody's fridge twice as long as a Patriot schedule. And a lot more people are sending out Patriot schedules. So that's something that just keeps me up there longer. If you want some more free ideas, feel free to do this, because this is a great idea that I have that I haven't actually done. We're talking about magnets that live on people's fridge. You guys know how many ounces are in a cup? How many quarts in a gallon? How many liters in an elephant? Like, you guys know those things? I don't. Maybe a measurement conversion chart that sits permanently in somebody's kitchen. That, by the way, has your face and phone number and maybe a QR code to your website on it. Layups, baby. That's free stuff. Send that stuff out. That goes on the fridge forever. Amanda says an egg conversion chart. I don't know. Amanda, I'm
With
happy
the
to come off
cost
mute
of
and tell
eggs
me
these days.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some people do recipe cards.
Right.
That's a big thing. Some people mail recipe cards out. Can you guys share some examples of stuff that you use or just thought of?
Yeah, it's a good time to come.
Guys, give us something.
Feed us. Let us know we're doing a good job. This is a good time to find some ahas that people said, oh, I could do this. This would be beautiful.
You could do the temperatures that the meat needs to be cooked at, like what chicken needs to be, what beef needs to be. Everyone doesn't know that. That's a really good one. I have that as a piece of paper in my kitchen. That would work really well. And it would stay there
So
for
smart.
a very long time.
That's so
right.
smart. I know. How many times do I
use that
Google
every
ounces
day.
to gallons or gallons to cups or whatever? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I cook a lot of pork tenderloin in my house. It's one of my favorite things to cook. And every time I'm like, wait, is it 145 degrees or 155 degrees? I have to Google it every time. If I have that on my fridge, I'll be like, oh, I don't even have to take out my phone, which is good because my hands are filthy from cooking. Oh, that's right. It's right here on my chart. That's a fantastic idea.
I'm stealing it, totally doing it.
Stealing it. I thought it was your idea.
Well, it was your magnet idea.
You and I should work together. Let's do this thing.
Sounds great.
All right, guys, give us one more. Any piece of content that might fit in here. Maybe an idea for a video, an email. A fridge magnet is fantastic. What else might go on a fridge magnet? A value that you can provide.
All right, I guess that's our hint to move on.
That's our hint. Yeah, we gotta take hints. Not always a strength of mine. So, guys, in previous sessions of Ignite, I think it was session 2 or 3. It's very early in the process where they talk about knowing your value proposition. The way I communicate this to people is if you happen to find yourself in an elevator and somebody just happens to think out loud, oh God, I wish I could buy an investment property. What are you going to say to this person super quick and super effectively that lets them know that you're in real estate and would like to communicate them about the transaction? This is something that should be unique to you, quick and informative. Now, we don't need to go through what everybody's is, but hopefully in previous sessions of Ignite, you've come up with yours. I always share mine, and Amanda Fitzgerald is going to laugh at me because I do this at Ignite all the time. Mine is, I literally take out my 3 fingers and I say, hey, listen, when we do a real estate transaction, we're going to get you the best deal in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress, right? And as I progress further through transactions with my clients and things start to go a little awry or they feel a little stressful, I will literally just look at them and be like, I hold up my 3 fingers and I shake my stress finger. I'm like, hey, listen, I got this. We're going to go through a stress-free transaction right now. You don't worry about it, right? People really like that because everybody thinks that when they're selling a house, they want to get the highest price. When they're buying a house, they want to get the best deal. And that might be true at the beginning. You know what people really remember at the end of it? How frustrating it was or not. How stressful it was or wasn't. That's what people are going to remember about working with you. So that's how I build my value proposition, how I communicate what I want to do for people. Your personal communication, guys, again, we're talking about something that's authentic to you, right? If you're communicating something that is disingenuous or something that doesn't really sound like the way you talk, people are going to see that. So come up with some kind of personal communication in a manner that you communicate. It's information that your sphere understands. Now, when I say your sphere, let's talk about this for a moment too. It's easy to say your sphere is like everybody you know, but within that, you have little other spheres. You have your high school friends, your college friends, your friends from a previous job that you worked, maybe even a job that you're currently working. Nicholas mentioned in his example that he's got some coworkers. Nicholas, I'm assuming that that's a job that you have that's outside of real estate. Guys, those are spheres. How you communicate to those different spheres can and should be different. The value that you provide to those people should be communicated differently in different means of communication and different information, right? And then, of course, more value. I reference how I'm not really a type A thinker or actor, but I do also know when it comes to real estate that people need their stats and data. So feel free to share that stats and data. When we talk about market reports and the like, your sphere needs to know that. That's also a great way as you guys are starting your careers. Your spheres probably know you as something that's not a realtor. My social media knew me just as the guy who would complain about the Red Sox for the longest time. And while justified in complaining about the Red Sox, I certainly am. That's not exactly how I wanted people to know me. I started pumping out data and information on the real estate market, how I interpret that data, how they should interpret that data, and how it's relevant to them. And now all of a sudden, people know me as the realtor, who also complains about the Red Sox sometimes.
I'll
That's
just
really
throw in
important
here
stuff.
too that I think part of we hear this a lot with newer agents. Well, I'm new, you know, what's my value prop? What am I supposed to say? Because I'm new. They're gonna know I'm new. They're not gonna choose me because I'm new. First of all, it's less than 5 times that I've ever had somebody ask how long I've been in the business, like because
Seriously.
they're afraid that I'm a new agent, right? So just get that concept of I'm new, so they won't do business with me. Just take it out of your head, right? You are with the #1 real estate company who is also the #1 training company. You've gone through education and classes. Even if you haven't actually done a transaction yet, you still know what you're doing, right? You're educated and have learned, and you probably have a coach or a mentor, right? You know what you're doing, right? So just remove that objection in your mind. And secondly, if you're in a position where you feel like you need to sort of show some type of level of experience or whatever, use the data from your market center, right? Use the data from your office. So if you look at like a buyer presentation, or probably more so on a listing presentation, there's typically a slide where you talk about yourself as the agent, right? And a lot of people get hung up on, well, I don't have numbers to put in there because I haven't done any transactions, or I haven't done many transactions yet, right? That's fine. Put the transactions for your brokerage. So you leverage the power of the KW model, KW name, the office that you work in, use those stats and data so that you can remove this, hindrance in your mind of, well, I haven't done enough yet, or I haven't done any transactions yet. Use data from your office to help give yourself a little boost in situations where you think that stuff kind of matters.
Can I drop a massive bomb that I thought of while Melanie was talking? I'm going to do the Brad Knowles thing, and we're getting super close to the camera. Guys, you often think that people are not going to hire you because you're new. Surprise. The fact that you're new might just be the reason they hire you, right? That I actually view that as an advantage. Somebody might look at a highly productive real estate agent and be like, that person doesn't have time for me. They can't bring me to all these showings. They can't take my phone calls at 8 o'clock when I get nervous. You can. The people might seek you out because you're new. When I go to like a car dealership or like a furniture store that they're working on commission, I want the new person, because that's just part of my personality. I like to see others grow and succeed. When I go furniture shopping, I don't need a person to tell me what a couch is. I know what a couch is. Give me the new person to ask some questions, and then I will help that person succeed. People are going to seek you out because you're new, right? I think that's something worth thinking about. So your potential lead sources. Let's go through some of these. People might call into the office, or people might call you. Might be a community event that you're hosting or even participating in, right? Hosting open houses, making calls. These are all different ways for you to get lead sources. Guys, there's 12 examples here. You don't need to be a master of all 12. In fact, you probably shouldn't be a master of all 12. But within this list, there are a couple of things that you could really focus on that are super authentic to you that you could really double down on. Me, I like to create content. I like to live in a social media world. And I do like to reach out and speak to my database. So guess what 3 I really focus on? Social media marketing, blogger newsletter. So I do like videos and stuff. And making calls out. Purchase leads. I'm not really purchasing that many leads. I do some leads through Facebook ads, but that's really it. My agent website. Your agent website can absolutely be leveraged at a high level. I personally am not. That doesn't mean that you can't or shouldn't. That might turn out to be a massive tool for you. Hosting open houses for other agents, other busy agents who don't want to spend 2.5 hours on a Saturday at their new listing to sell that house and pick up buyers. They would love it if a new hungry agent like yourselves volunteered to host that open house for them. With the caveat, of course, that you get any buyer leads that come in unrepresented, right? These are things that you can do. Any one of these are ways that you can run your entire business.
So I just want to jump in quickly. So
Sure.
The important thing too is that you guys track this, right? Because the type of lead or where your lead comes from is going to change the value that you are going to provide to that lead, right? So what you say to a person that comes into an open house unrepresented is going to be different than what you say to someone that you have bought or sold a house with already in the past, right? So you need to be able to track where that lead came from, because that's going to change the type of value that you're going to be giving to them, the type of communication that you're going to send, the information that you're going to share is going to be different based on what type of lead or where that lead came from. So you need to be able to track that. Simply for me in Command, when a lead comes in, it gets a tag from, if it came from an open house, then it's open house, or if it's referral from an agent, it's agent referral, because even just that, like the way that I talk to a referral in my database is very different how I talk to a referral from another agent that's been given to me. So it's important to track that so that the value and the communication that I have with that lead matches and isn't just some generic information that I use for everybody.
Absolutely. I'm just answering a question I got in the chat. Somebody direct messaged me, so I just want to respond to that. Bear with me.
And I think you guys have there's a page in your participant guide where there's some questions in there to help you sort of, generate some thought about this stuff.
Right. Yeah, and as Melanie's talking about tracking, you might think that you're going to be a social media marketer, and if you invest a lot of time and money in it and then it doesn't actually work, you won't know it's not working until you've wasted a lot of time and money on it. So tracking it allows you to pivot into what is and is not working. And it also allows you to pivot into what is working more aggressively. If you find out that like, oh, yeah, I did like 3 open houses for other agents this year and it resulted in 4 transactions, what stands to reason that maybe you want to do maybe 2 a weekend instead of 3 a year, right? So you figure out what works for you. Me personally, I'm not great at converting open house leads. I don't know why. It's kind of low hanging fruit, and it's never been something I'm good at. So I don't double down on that activity. There are agents who build their entire business on it at the same time. All right, so we could actually
Before we move off this page, I just want to point out a couple of things. So it's talking about the idea of asking questions, right? So this is part of that process of qualifying a lead. One, just to see if they're actually a lead, right? Like, is this someone that I actually could do business with now or in the future? And then sort of the next, I guess, part of that conversation is uncovering the motivation, because again, the value that you provide depends on the motivation, right? So why are they buying or selling? Not just when are you going to buy or sell, or what do you want to buy or sell? It's why. The why questions are going to get you down to the motivation of that lead. And then the information and the value that you share with that person is going to change. If Dave needs to sell his house and it's because he got a job relocation and he needs to leave in 2 weeks, he doesn't care about the price, maybe not as much. He needs timing. For him, the motivation is quick, 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 right? So the way that I talk to Dave is different than I talk to Kim, she doesn't have to sell it right away. She can let it sit forever as long as she gets X dollar. So the information, the value that I provide to Dave is very different than the value that I provide to Kim. So it's important that you guys ask those why questions. And if they answer you, okay, tell me more about that. Awesome. Why does that matter to you? Why is that important for your family, right? Asking the why to get really deep into the motivation is going to help you understand how you can best serve that person and the best value that you can provide to them.
Right. A great example, somebody might say, oh, I need like 4 acres of land. Like, oh, okay. What does that mean to you and your family? Oh, I need a place for the dogs to run around. So my follow-up question might be like, oh, well, if I found a place that had 2 acres of land, would that work? Yeah, that would be totally fine. You can narrow down the service that you're providing, which improves the service that you're providing. Any ahas, questions, thoughts, comments, guys? Give us some stuff that we've gone over the last like hour or so that is kind of like struck a chord with you. Come on, somebody learned something.
If you don't share, that means that we're terrible at teaching. We're really boring. You're never going to come back again. We're going to take it totally personal.
Yep.
Yeah, I have something.
Yes.
Go for it.
So when you guys were talking about just being yourself and talking like normal, that kind of helped a lot because I'm a new agent also. And I felt like I kind of had to be this like professional. I don't know. I just had to sound like different than how I normally sound. So knowing that I can talk to people normally and that will help.
Yeah.
I always use this example. So there's a big joke that I'm like anti-social media. I don't enjoy it. I'm not great at it. I don't get anything out of it. Now, there is business to be had there, right? So every now and then I'll go post something, and because I have no idea what I'm doing and I don't have fancy equipment and whatever, I just literally turn my camera on and I just talk like this is how I talk. This is how I talk to clients. This is how I talk to mentees. This is how I talk to my family and friends. So when I go on social media and I record a video, it's so uncomfortable for me. I hate every second of it, but I'm just being me. And out of all the fancy real estate stuff that I post, no one cares, but they love these super uncomfortable, you know, the camera's shaking all around, I'm awkward, you know, my hair's a mess, whatever. They love that stuff because people just, they do business with you because it's you, not because of how fancy you sound. You need some of that to validate that you're actually a professional, right? So you have to show that you know what you're talking about. So every now and then you got to post some, you know, market stuff or whatever, so you can just validate that you're a real estate agent. Other than that, they just want you. That's it.
My most valuable pieces of content, it's not my real estate stuff. It's when I post funny things that my son says, or crazy things that my daughter does, or, you know, just stuff I see around the neighborhood. That stuff gets butts in the seat, so to speak, so that when my real estate content goes out, more people see it. That's just kind of understanding social media algorithms and whatnot. So just worth knowing. And Jack, thank you for sharing. Yeah, you're right. That your comment is on authenticity, right? Especially if you're starting with a sphere of people that you already know. Those people know you for who you are, right? They like you and trust you for who you are. So continue to be who you are as you seek to do business with these people, right? That makes perfect sense. Thank you, Jack, for sharing. So let's hit.
Anybody else?
Sure, let's see.
This stuck with me, what David said. If you are doing business with me, we are not dating, we're married. It stuck with me the whole time, you know?
Yep.
Yep.
You can
You
use
gotta
that
give-
line.
Yeah.
If you like.
I don't know if I already posted that on Facebook or something.
That's a huge point, guys.
do
Take
it.
something from this class, right? Take a screenshot, take a whatever, take a selfie of yourself with the Zoom screen and the whatever. Use this as a way to post something on social media to show that you're like actively learning, educated, growing. People don't look at you as being in a class like, oh, they're still learning. People look at you in a class like, oh, they're continuing to hone their skill, stay current in the market, be educated on what's happening now. People will respect you more for showing that you're still learning and growing.
100%. 100%.
All right, Dave, I think I'll jump back in for a few minutes.
Okay. I will, pardon me for 2 minutes. I will be right back, but continue.
All right, so we kind of covered what is leads, like what are leads, what is lead follow-up, what does that look like, how do I do it? And now we're going to kind of come on to the next part of that, sort of the end of it is, what do you do after lead follow-up? So if you guys are in your participant guide, it should be 10.8. So you've probably seen this funnel in a bunch of different classes. It's all over KWU. Once you've, done your 19 touch, you followed up with a lead. Now they've given you permission to have a two-way conversation, right? So you've spent the text messages, you've done the emails, you've done the calls, and they have responded to you. Now, what do you think happens to that person? Anybody want to throw a guess out there? It's on the page. They turn from a lead to a contact. Now, don't be confused, because in Command, there's an applet called Contacts, right? So technically speaking, in Command, they're always a contact. I'll show you tactically inside of Command. I don't know if anybody has ever noticed it. There's a little box that says mark as lead. So if you want to think about it like a trigger in your mind, in your database, you'll have leads that you're calling contacts in your database, right? But once you've gone through the 19 to convert, now they've had a two-way conversation, they become a contact. You literally uncheck that box, right? You uncheck the box that says mark as lead. Now they're a contact. And that kind of funnels through your lead generation process, basically, right? So now they're not just a random lead. Now they're a contact. There's some way, two-way communication happening, and now they're going to kind of funnel through this process. So once they come off of a 19 to connect, now you have to put them on a 36 to convert or 36 touch, right? So Sphere, you should have them on a 36 touch. Anybody that's in your database that you've done business with or know you're going to do business with, or friends, family, whatever, they should already be on a 36 touch. Once you have a new lead, they go through the 19 to connect. Once you've had a two-way conversation, you're going to cement the relationship, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides. But now you're going to put them onto a 36 touch. And now that's to make sure that you continue this conversation with them, but now you know that there's a real likelihood of you doing business. So the way that you talk to them is going to be a little bit different than what you would, do with a lead that you're still waiting to have a conversation with. It does not guarantee, just because you went through the 19 to touch, they actually responded, you're having a two-way conversation. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're definitely going to do business with you. That's why we put them on a 36 touch, to continue that communication in hopes that we can cement a relationship and plan to do business together in the future. Okay. So no matter who,
but everybody they know.
right. So no matter who's in your database, they should be on some type of touch plan. They're either on a 19 to connect, because you're still working on that two-way communication, or you've had that two-way communication and now they're on a 36 touch. Any questions there? All right, Dave, actually, I'm gonna let you hand this, I'm gonna hand it back to you because I know you're pretty passionate about this, so I'll let you. Take back over.
So the transition between lead to contact, it's not just like a light switch that you flip and all of a sudden somebody is one or the other, right? There is this, and this is actually pretty new to the way Keller Williams communicates this to our agents. There's this step in between that will be a high value touch that we call one to cement. The example that I have for this is my Facebook leads. I mentioned the Facebook ads that I do through Command earlier. My Facebook leads come in, and somebody who has clicked on one of my listings or one of your listings that I advertised and has said, hey, I'm interested in this property. And maybe they didn't do it right away. Maybe it took like 6 or 7 months to actually work on them to get them to express an interest in doing a real estate transaction. Right then, they're looking for something that solidifies the relationship with me. So that might be a great time for me to have a buyer consultation with this person, or connect them to one of my mortgage lenders to get pre-approved to purchase a property. Because until this point, they're really just somebody that I'm kind of like sending things and talking to on the phone, which are things that we should be doing. But this high value touch is the closer, so to speak. I make the analogy of dating and being married. This is the wedding, right? Melanie, you're trying so hard. I looked right at you when I said that. This is when the relationship becomes solid. This is when I'm talking about creating raving fans. This is when they become that. You're providing all of this information to people to say like, hey, did you know that you could, let's play this example out. Somebody says they want to buy a property with you. They're just not ready because their credit is too low. Like, hey, well, actually, a mortgage lending partner that I work with, they have some credit repair options. It might be worth making a phone call or setting up a meeting in person. I wonder if I could set it up for you. Would you mind if I tag along? And then you all go to that together. That person goes into that meeting thinking they can't buy a house, coming out of it knowing that they can, or even if they can't right then, at some time in the future. So in a number of your touch campaigns, which remember, they're going to be different based on who they are in your sphere, but on a number of your touch campaigns, having that kind of lead to the natural conclusion of this one to cement is a fantastic way to turn them into somebody who not only wants to transact with you, but wants to support you and your business going forward and provide referrals to you over time. Again, the buyer consultation is my favorite example. I end my buyer consultations with saying to somebody, I don't suppose you know anybody who you know that would benefit from having this same conversation with me. Oh, no, Dave, not right now. I'll think about it. Great. Can I shoot you a text message in like 2 days just to see if you thought anybody? And then I usually, not all the time, but I usually get somebody else who is at least interested in having this conversation at some point. business begets business. I got somebody into my 1 to cement plan here, and I invite them to invite other people they know to this same touch. And my sphere of people who knows me as the real estate professional grows exponentially. Right. Again, I use the buyer consultation as an example. It's not the only example. There are any number of things that you can do. I mean, honestly, like giveaways, I don't want to go too far down this road, but like a giveaway on social media, the 1 to cement is dropping off something that this person won at their house. I have an agent that I was coaching who was doing giveaways, and she had an event at a Christmas tree farm in December, and she got all this information, and all these people who won her drawings, she had like 4 or 5 of them. She then went to these people's houses to hand deliver these gifts and turn those into meaningful conversations, and said, oh, by the way, we're going to be doing this again in February. Who else do you know who might want to be part of this that might benefit from winning? Really cool stuff that not a lot of other agents are doing. Like that would be something that even if I was thinking, even if I just bought my house, that would be something that I would want to participate in. That makes sense, guys? I hear resounding yeses.
We're coming close to the end and we're ahead of the time. So can you guys share, how about we put a little challenge out there? Can everybody out there put one question in the chat? Just put it in the chat.
Yeah. There were 22 of you by my last count.
Oh, there's only 20 now. We lost a couple. I told you we're boring.
Yeah, I mean, I already knew that.
Everybody put a question in the chat. It could be about something in the material, something not directly in the material, but it kind of got you thinking about another question.
Right. Or even a struggle that you're having with somebody who has said that they want to buy a house, but they're ghosting you. That's something that happens to a lot of new agents.
Yep.
You know,
Or if you've got a lead source that you work with a lot and you need an idea on a script that you can use. Anything.
Yeah, I was gonna do some lead follow-up after this. I could use a good script.
Okay.
Okay. So what type of lead are you following up with? Is it somebody who has said that they want to buy or sell or rent? Like, give me a description of the lead.
So one of them or two of them were people that came into an open house that I hosted. They were unrepresented. And then another one was just a neighbor that I heard was selling their house in the future.
Okay, so two buyer leads and a seller lead. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe we should, Melanie, do you want to model this?
Yeah, Dave, you're not into open houses, so I can call you. How's that sound?
Perfect. So I'm the unrepresented buyer who met you at an open house.
Yep.
Sure.
Good.
Okay.
Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. Is this David?
Yes. Who's this?
Hi, David. I don't know if you remember me. It's Melanie Ruiz. We met at an open house that I had at 123 Main Street on Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. How's it going?
How are you?
Good. Thank you. I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for coming to the open house. I really appreciate it. I know that especially this time of year, it's not the greatest weather and there's probably a lot of houses out there for you to look at. So I appreciate you guys coming by.
Yeah, of course. I was happy to do it.
Good. Would you be open to sharing a little bit of feedback about the house, what you liked, what you didn't like?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, my family's growing, and we need a bigger house than the one that we own currently. And I think the house you were listing was probably just a little too small. I really need like 25 or 2,600 square feet. So
Okay.
it was nice. It was beautiful. I just needed more space than where I'm going. So I don't think that house is the right one for me.
Okay, great. Well, congratulations on the growing family. Do you already have kids now?
Yeah. We have 4, and
Holy mackerel.
yeah, we're actually looking to adopt a couple.
Well, I'll help you find a house and I'll help you find a bus. How does that sound?
That would be great.
Okay, so you've got some more kids coming. That's awesome. So about 25 to 2,600. Have you looked at homes in that kind of size range already?
We're finding that it's kind of difficult to afford them.
Right.
It's just everything is so expensive right now.
Yeah. Did you see the one on 123 South Main Street? I think it was just around that square footage. I think it was 4 bedrooms. Did you see that one?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. If you want, I can send that over to you. You can take a look. I don't know if it would work for you guys, but I can just send it through our app. If you want me to just give me your cell phone number, I can text it over to you.
Sure. Well, I mean, the number you called me on is my cell.
Oh yeah, that's true. So yeah, so once we hang up, I'll send that over to you. And if you have any interest in checking it out, let me know.
Sure.
Are you looking just in the Providence area?
I mean, it's about the kids, right? So anything that has a good school system. So
Okay.
Cumberland, North Smithfield, Lincoln, any of those towns would be great.
Cumberland, North Smith. Okay, I'm just making some notes, so if I come across something, I can make sure I send it over to you. So Cumberland, are you trying to get in before the school year starts?
That'll be great. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Are you currently renting or own a house now?
So we own in North Smithfield.
Okay. Oh, that's a great school system too.
Yeah.
Are you-
Yeah.
are
So
you
we'd love
open
to stay
staying
there.
Okay.
Yeah. I just don't want to downgrade is all.
Okay, I gotcha. So we're in end of January, okay, so that's why you're out looking at open houses, because you probably got to start figuring this out fairly quickly, huh?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. What are you doing for financing? Are you using cash or who are you pre-approved with?
Well, when we bought our house, we used this guy, John. So probably
Okay.
but I haven't gotten pre-approved with him yet. I'm
Okay.
just out looking.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would just share with you in this kind of market, we still have such little inventory that if you did find something that you really liked, I would hate to see you guys, not get it because you weren't pre-approved yet, especially now agents really won't accept an offer unless they've got a pre-approval. So no pressure, but just thought I would share. It might make sense for you to talk to him sooner rather than later.
Sure.
Even if you don't find anything for a couple of months, at least you sort of got that out of the way. So it's one less thing you have to worry about when you find the house that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's good advice. That makes sense.
Okay. So I don't think you wrote down an agent. Are you currently working with a real estate agent?
No, I'm not. I didn't really like my last one.
Oh, okay. Can you share a little bit what you think it was that didn't work?
I just don't feel like they did anything. I found the house. I said what I wanted to spend.
Okay.
They did my paperwork. That was nice, but that was really it.
Okay. All right. So if you'd be open to it, I'd be happy to send you homes when I come across things that I think make sense for you. Would that be okay?
Sure, you can do that.
Okay. So most people like to get the daily emails from the MLS. If you bought a house, you're probably familiar with that. So I'd be happy to set that up. But also, if I find something, because I'm in the market every day, I'm looking at what's out there. If I find something, I'd love to be able to send it over to you. I usually do it through the app. Is that okay as well?
Yeah, no problem with that.
Okay. So do you want to get the daily emails also?
Yeah, anything you got.
Okay. All right. So give me your email address.
amazingperson123@yahoo.com.
Perfect. So I'll get those set up probably today or tomorrow. And in the meantime, if I've, come across something that I think makes sense, I'll send it over to you. And the app that I'm going to send for that house that I found, it's a really great app. It's free for you to use. You download it, create an account. Luckily for you, you get to search all kinds of houses. You don't have to worry about every agent calling you after you looked on Zillow. So
Right.
Yeah, you can look freely. And then if you have a question about a property, you can just send it over to me. And if you see something that comes up that you like, please feel free to send it over to me and I'll take some time to research it for you.
Can do. Sounds great.
So you sounds like you used an agent before, so you'd be open to working exclusively with someone?
I don't have any issue with that. That's fine.
Okay. Do you feel there's any reason why you and I couldn't get together and sit down and talk about us working together?
Yeah, not at all. No, this has been really informative and you've been super polite. I appreciate that.
Okay, awesome. What's your schedule like? Are you available in evenings or maybe on weekends?
I'm one of the preeminent brain surgeons in the area, so it's kind of tough for me to find time. But this week I'm off rotation, so I can be available in the mornings.
Okay, so what about let me just look at my calendar. Do you want to do Thursday morning or Saturday morning? And it's really just for us to sit down, and I know you've bought a house before. The process might be a little bit different. I can share on what's going on in the market. Would Thursday morning or Saturday morning be better?
It's really cool that you offered me 2 times to sit down. I find that really helpful. Let's do Saturday morning.
All right, so Saturday morning, let's say 10 o'clock. That way you guys can have breakfast with the kids first.
Perfect. Yes.
All right, great. So I will, you want to just meet at the Panera on George Washington Highway?
That works.
Awesome. All right, so I will see you guys. Feel free to bring all the kids. I know what it's like trying to find babysitting care. So I've had kids. I don't care if they're running around making a mess.
Okay,
So I'll see you Saturday at 10 o'clock.
sounds good.
All right, thanks, Dave. Have a great day.
You got it. Thank you. How'd
You
that
were
go?
so way too nice to me this time.
Well, I would be super mean to you if we weren't in front of a bunch of new agents. I want to resist you because you asked me all the right things though. I put in the chat while you were talking. Notice how she's asking me questions and not just telling me things, right? Guys, that's a huge value that a top agent provides. It's not just telling me, hey, you should work with me. Hey, it's better to buy a house. It's this, it's that, it's the other thing. She's asking me questions to determine my motivation. Remember, we talk about, I forget the order they say in Ignite, but it's not ready, willing, and able. It's like able, ready. It's able, willing, and ready, I think is the way they do it in Ignite. She's determining how I fit into all of those categories and then offering me value when the opportunity to do so comes up, right? It's not just, this is an issue that we have, I think, sometimes when we talk about scripts. Some people think there's a script, which means it's like a very rigid conversation path that I have to follow. It's like, no, she's digging into my motivation and then responding to it in kind when the opportunity presents itself. That's how that works. She only told me stuff when she had to tell me stuff. Everything else was about what I need. That's massive. Brian, you have a hand up.
A few weeks ago, somebody said in one of the classes, don't ask questions to speak, ask questions to understand.
I love that person, whoever that is.
And my question for you is, you are setting up that meeting at the restaurant with the kids so that you can become the person that he's going to do the transaction with, correct?
Yep, that's my buyer consult.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and you'll notice that I didn't say that. I didn't say, I'm going to set up a buyer consultation so you can sign a buyer representation agreement, which, by the way, guys, not everyone agrees, but I always sign a buyer representation agreement. Always. But I didn't say that, right? So that feels less restrictive, rigid. It doesn't, that's what it is, but it doesn't feel like that to the person on the other side of the phone.
It felt like you cared about his situation.
Yeah, I did. And so the other thing to think of, and Dave said this, right? I didn't just call and ask for business, right? I called first, he came to an open house, and I know that most agents that are going to buy a house have to sell a house. So the first thing I asked him was, could you give me some feedback on the open house? Now I'm showing this buyer who's also a seller that I'm doing follow-up to everybody that came to my open house. So as a selling agent, he knows I'm doing my job of getting feedback from everybody that came to the house, right? And that's just, it just comes off as a very easy, I'm not calling him to get business. I'm just calling because you came to the open house and I'm getting feedback.
That's right. The conversation actually started with Melanie serving her current client first, which is her seller client, and then working on cultivating business for herself. That's the approach that I take.
And I repeat back what he says to me, right? So this is another big thing, guys. When someone is sharing, well, two things. One, if they're sharing, keep asking. If they're going to keep giving you information, literally find anything to ask, because the more that you talk, the better that connection is getting. You're finding ways that you can relate to that person. So don't ever feel like you're keeping them on the phone too long. If they're talking, let them talk, because you can learn a lot about someone, right? And the other thing was, when he said, oh, I have I want to grow my family. Oh, okay, you want to grow a family. That's helping me because when I repeat it, I remember it. And I was also literally, even though he's a fake, I was writing things down, right? So I'm writing things down and I'm repeating it back to him. It's helping me to remember it, but it's also showing him that I'm listening and I'm confirming what he's saying. So that way he knows that I actually care about, like you said, Brian, it shows that I care about what he wants. So I repeat the answers back to him. I don't say it word for word verbatim, but I find a way to add that into the conversation to show that I'm listening.
Right. Absolutely.
Jack, was that helpful? It kind of went long.
That phone call with you and him was a masterclass.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, that was really good. Thank you.
Yeah, and
All right,
and
folks.
just to comment too, like how natural it is, right? Because Melanie and I practice this stuff a lot together anyway. And that conversation grows natural over time. It's practiced, right? It's practiced so much that it becomes natural. Like, forgive me if I butcher the expression, but it's something like professionals practice until they get it right. Masters practice until they can't get it wrong. Right. So that's one of the big things about script practice and role play. It's like, and Melanie at this point has done that conversation so many times that it's completely natural to her. When you guys try it, it might sound different for you, but that's okay. That's what we've been talking about all day, is your authenticity.
I think someone was gonna say something.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I had just a quick comment to make. It seemed like in the beginning of the conversation, it was very, even though it was scripted, it was very, Dave was a little bit reticent to, because he wasn't quite ready to get serious about buying something.
Yeah.
And then as the conversation, more and more questions were asked, he was very cooperative, and sometimes that's what happens. You start off a conversation and it can seem like it's not going well, but then as you ask more questions, more information, it helps to nurture the conversation.
That's right.
You got it.
Yeah. My tone and my actions continue to invite Melanie to probe deeper.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes they will do that, and sometimes they won't do that. And that's okay. You should respond in kind, regardless of how they're responding to you. But like, if they're giving you information, continue to ask for it. Don't feel like the conversation has to go like a maximum of 5 minutes. If it's a great conversation and they're giving you those opportunities, take those opportunities, guys. 100%. I want to address it. There's a question in the chat that I think is relevant to this part of the conversation. Kat asks, would you say that the one to cement is the moment that the one-way conversation becomes two? Which is it's a really good clarifying question here. I would say that by the time you're going for to cement the relationship, you've probably already conversed with them back and forth at some point anyway. Like, I'm not going to offer a buyer consultation if we haven't actually had a two-way conversation. So in practice, you will most likely have had a two-way conversation or more than one by then. I position it as the wedding between dating and being married, but in reality, this is the one that whatever your relationship is, this solidifies it and improves it. Like, this is, I would say, think of it more as like the most significant moment in turning this person into a raving fan. I think that's probably the best way to say that. So yeah, it will probably come before you have, it will probably come after this person is already in contact, but it does also kind of depend. I referenced earlier having lenders do first-time buyer classes. So if you do that and you have a class where like 8 or 9 people show up, that's your one to cement touch. Maybe you haven't spoken with them. All they did was like sign up for something that you threw out on Facebook. And then, yes, then that is absolutely your opportunity to turn them from lead into contact. So it's going to depend. Although I would say usually if you're having this high level contact, or this high level conversation, you've probably already spoken to them, which then defines them as a contact. That makes sense.
I want to have an opportunity to answer everybody. So I'm going to kind of go through the questions so we can answer one. Amanda asked, what company do you use to print your magnets?
I use Vistaprint or Best Print Buy, or it used to be called House of Magnets, but now I think it's Markful. They call. So those are the companies that I've gone through in the past. If you guys go to mykw.kw.com, there will be a list of vendors that you can find on that website as well.
On average, how many houses do you usually show a client before they close? This is a good one.
Depends on the market.
Yeah, I'll cover this for a quick second. So
Sure.
A couple of things. One, I said this to an agent yesterday, and I say it to the people that I mentor with. If you're not doing a buyer consultation, you are doing malpractice. Okay, guys. So I know that a lot of people are like, oh, well, I have to show a house first. Okay. If you have a lead that comes in, and I'm trying to keep this in the premise of a lead, right? So if a lead comes in and they want to see a house, yes, sometimes you will have to show them a house first. I show them one, right? I always intend to sort of convert them over the phone before I actually show them a house. Because guys, I know when you're newer or you have another job, maybe you're like, oh, I can just go show houses whenever it's convenient, but eventually you're not going to have that time to just run around and show a bunch of random leads one house, right? So I'm not discouraging you from doing it, but I would limit it to one, and only do that if you've had a conversation over the phone and you really just couldn't get them to meet you or sit down, or there wasn't really a great connection. So you're just going to need to show them a house so that you can form that relationship, right? After that, I don't show any more houses unless they sign a buyer representation agreement. And it's your job as the agent to help them understand why that's important, because the buyer representation agreement, the way that I position it in my buyer consults is that it's not for me, it's actually for them, because it puts on paper what my job responsibilities are. So now they have it in writing, what I'm supposed to do for them. So it's really for their best interests, right? So that's kind of, before you even show a house, I feel like those two things should be happening. And then that qualifying process should make it so that you don't have to show that many houses, right? There are some people where you will. I was that person. When I bought my first house, I probably looked at 30 of them because I was a first-time buyer and I had no idea what I wanted, and I needed to see stuff to figure out, because I'm just a visual person. Like, I need to feel, touch, see it to experience in order to understand it, right? So that was just my personality. So it did take me a lot to find my house. Now being in real estate, I'm like, God, you're like the worst possible client ever. But I think that should be the exception to the rule. You should be able to know enough information about your client, and you've asked enough really good questions that you know what works for them and what doesn't. So if you have a family of four, or excuse me, if you have a family with 4 children, you cannot put them in a house that's less than 1,000 square feet, right? And it's your job as a real estate agent, you're the professional and the expert, to be able to have that conversation with your client. So when you go through buyer consultation, you're asking enough qualifying questions to really understand what they want and need. So when they send you a list of 30 houses and you know that 25 of them are not going to work, you have to be able to say that to them. You just say it in a loving way, right? So a lot of the times my conversations are like, oh, I don't know if you noticed on this one, but it's only X amount of square feet. And remember that other house that we saw? It felt like we were like claustrophobic. This one's even smaller than that. So I think we can probably take that one off. Don't you agree? Right? Or whatever that conversation is, come from a place of like consideration, and you're trying to help them. And I also say, listen, I know that you, like, especially with all the kids, or you work a lot, or your mom is sick, it's not that easy for you to get out of the house. So I want to make sure that when we go look at properties, that we're looking at stuff that we know really makes sense for you. And that's also part of my buyer consultation. So I guess the short answer is not many. I would say 5, honestly. Really, you shouldn't be really showing them more than 5. And if you are, then you probably don't really understand what they're looking for, or they don't understand enough of what they're looking for, and you're going to have to help them uncover that.
Let me expand
Melanie?
just a touch. So,
Melanie?
Yep.
You know, I think in this kind of a marketplace, I don't know what it's like where everybody else works, but here in the South Shore, there's really a limited inventory of homes right now. So it's not like you can take somebody out and show them 6 to 10 homes. It's just
right.
There aren't
nothing
that many out there.
No, there's not that many out there. So you should be able to 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
somewhere in
Worth
that-
mentioning. This is what I wanted to expand on. It's like, if you wind up showing them more than, it's, to me, it's not how many properties should I show somebody before they purchase a property. It's more like, if I show them 5, 6, 7 properties and they're not interested in any of them, they don't even submit offers. That's when I feel like I kind of need to reassess. It's like, hey, we've identified these as potentials and they haven't really worked out. I think we have to revisit, right?
Thanks.
The other thing, the buyer consultation is the opportunity for you to save time. Because I mean, you guys will find that at some point you're like, oh geez, I don't want to take all my weekends showing people property anymore. Like you'll grow into that. Your buyer consultation is the best time to really narrow this down so that you're maximizing your time, their time as well. But make no mistake, your time is valuable as well. So the more you focus in on what they really need, what their motivation is, what they really need, and why they need it, the more qualifying questions you ask, the more likely it's going to be that the houses you look at are genuine possibilities of writing successful offers. I share an example where I was young and I hadn't quite figured out what I was doing yet. I had a buyer. Now we did submit 4 offers, so it's not like we saw this many without even trying. Between open houses and private showing, they saw 92 houses before they finally closed. And it was at like 88 that I said to them, it's like, guys, there doesn't seem to be a lot of consistency with what we're seeing. The only consistencies are that one of you likes this kind of house and the other likes this kind of house. So I'm asking for permission to tell you guys no. If you ask me to see a house that doesn't fit what I've learned your criteria are. And they agreed with that because they didn't want to keep showing houses either. That's not a great experience for them. And guess what? 4 houses later, we closed because we got really focused. So take that lesson. The amount of money I spent on gas driving those 2 around was probably exceeded the commission that I made on that deal. So
I'm going to move us along. Sorry.
Yes, of
I
course,
just want to
sorry.
make sure we get to everybody. So Judy, I have someone who wants to sell, but they want to find a home before putting their house on the market. I'm trying to get them to move forward with listing their home first. Any advice?
oh boy,
You want to
that's-
start?
you want to script it or just talk about it?
Judy, you want to script it or you want to talk about it?
I think you two should script it.
All right. I guess I'll be the agent then. All right, Mel, you just so we can skip all the hi, how are you stuff. Just kick me right into the objection.
I mean, I want to buy a house. I mean, I need to sell my house, but I need to find a house first.
Right. So let's talk about what that might look like. So we've already found that there's not really a lot of inventory out there, Melanie, right?
Yeah, not a ton.
Right. And a lot of other buyers who are out there, they're finding the same experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm driving at here is that when we find the right house, which is kind of a needle in the haystack, I want to make sure that we're positioned in the right spot to get that house, right? Because you know what I don't want to do is have you find the right house and then not get that house and not secure that for you, right? So here's where this matters to listing your property. One of the things that's going to make your offer really attractive is actually let me back that up a bit. If we have to sell a property in order to close on a purchase, and we're not even trying to sell that property yet, my fear is that the sellers won't view us as a viable offer for them. Not having your not having your house on the market when we have to sell it in order to buy is going to really reduce the chance that we get that right property.
I mean, I could put it on, like if I find a house, I could put it on right away.
Right. But so what do you mean by finding a house? Identifying the property or like getting under contract? Tell me more about that.
I mean, yeah, if we go look at something and I like it, then I could get my house, like we could put it up for sale right away.
Right. So we're going to find that house. We want to write an offer, and then that property, we have to put your house on the market. By the time we get your house on the market after that point, the seller might have already rejected our offer or accepted another. So what I'm trying to do here is put us in the most likely position to get your offer accepted, which really means getting your house on the market ASAP. And by the way, if we find a buyer for your house before we find that, have we talked about the seller suitable housing contingency?
No, I don't know what that is. I mean, I guess my point is, there's not a lot out there. So I'm afraid if I put my house up, then I'm going to have to sell it and I don't even have anywhere to go.
Right. Well, hey, that's what this contingency is all about. This is the thing that we put in place that says that you are not going to be forced to sell your house and close on your house until you find something to buy. The sale of your house basically is contingent on you successfully purchasing the other one. And as our buyers come in for your property, we communicate to them, hey, if that takes three months, 4 months, that's what it takes. And in a market with limited inventory, honestly, people are just going to be so excited to have an opportunity to buy that house that they're going to be okay with that. So we're actually going to be afforded that amount of time to find the right property for you. And then when we do find that property, we're going to be in a fantastic position to make sure that's the one that you get.
I mean, don't they know that people have to sell their house though? Like, why would that make our offer not good?
Sure. But like, if we're further along in that process, the likelihood that we close on that purchase is significantly higher. And that could be the difference between that seller that we find accepting or rejecting our offer. And I want to make sure that any offer we submit on that perfect property has the highest likelihood of getting accepted. And having your property on the market ready to sell, that's the way to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get that puppy out there.
Judy, did that help? Okay.
You were
All right.
meaner to me than I was to you, but
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Thank
That's
you
okay.
very much. That was great.
yeah,
Good.
yeah. But it's about
What else
them,
is
right?
in here?
I just want to hit that point while you look for the next question, Mel. It's about them, right? That wasn't about me getting my listing up. That was about making sure that when Melanie's family finds the right house, that they have the best chance to get that. So that's what I was hammering. I want to make sure that when you find the right property for you guys, that we're in the best position to get our offer accepted. You guys also noticed that my tone got softer and a little slower as I was making those points. I talked pretty fast. I talked pretty aggressively. I really slowed it down when I needed to talk about what I thought made sense for Melanie so that she was in a more cooperative tone, right? While we were going through that.
All right, we're gonna rapid fire these so we can finish
Let's
up.
go.
What are the best sites to collect leads from past clients? So I might not understand the question because you wouldn't use sites to get stuff from past clients. You would.
Right.
So John, maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Yes, I just, I'm a relatively new agent, but I've got a few closings and, you know, I know people look at Zillow and different things. There's all kinds of options for getting reviews from past clients. So just wanted to know what was any feedback on that as far as
Okay,
what
so
would be a good method, what would be good sites, what would be sites not to bother with, you know, and of course Zillow, everybody, you know, potential future clients or people that are curious about real estate or whether I always just seem to go to that first. So just was curious to know what to do. I don't have any reviews posted anywhere yet.
Yeah. So Zillow is a place where they can live. Realtor.com is a place they can live. Your own agent website that you build through command. There are widgets that allow you to create that for you. Getting reviews on Google as well. Those are 4 pretty strong avenues to find, you know, to build a hub for your referrals.
And it's going to be wherever you are. So if you're on Facebook, have them go on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, don't have them go to Facebook. If you're on Google, then have them go to Google. It's kind of like wherever you are going to be, then that's where your reviews should be. So if you like using your KW agent site, then have them put on your agent site.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was a best universal way. There's just so many avenues today, you know?
Yeah, there's really no one way is the best way. It would just be wherever you are, because that's where your people probably are.
Right.
So you want to be where your people are going to be looking at you. There's services that you can use to collect them. I think, you know, doing things organically with least cost is kind of the motivation. And wherever you are going to be spending your time.
Yeah. Ultimately, the best system is the one that you use.
Yeah. Best companies to use to print marketing flyers. I would say we can't really tell you guys the best of stuff. We can give you what we do. I create everything in command and then I print it at Staples because I'm an instant gratification kind of person. So I do same day print at Staples because I just want things when I want them.
That's all about that. Yep.
Yeah, so you can print them right from command. You can print them. We have Michael Lewis Marketing Suite in our office. Vistaprint is another one. Canva. Again, it's kind of like whatever is easiest, not really best. And someone made a comment that you'll get a lot of discounts coming up at Family Reunion. That's good too. Our contact info. Yes, my cell phone number. Oh, did you already put it in there, Dave? Great. Moving on. I think that's all of it. Did we get everybody?
Woo!
Awesome. 4 minutes left. It's our monthly cook-off today in our office and it's Mexican, so we gotta go eat some tacos.
Where are you guys from?
We are from Leading Edge in Lincoln, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, okay.
Yep, where are you, Brian?
Well, I'm out of the Bedford, New Hampshire office, but I live in
Okay.
Manchester, right next door. They're
Okay, cool,
2 miles down the road.
right. Come on down, come and visit us sometime.
Yeah, if you can get here fast enough for leftover tacos, then
You're very welcome.
Oh, you should see the food they're starting to bring in now, man.
And if you're good at cooking, you can cook for our monthly cook-offs and you win a
Yep.
golden spatula, just saying.
yep, please cook for me.
Solid gold.
No,
I don't
you're
think
on,
it's
you're on
solid
our wall too for the month. Yeah.
You like it?
It's fun. We have a lot of fun. We have agents, co-brokes. It's cool. It's a good time.
How'd you go about
I
getting
didn't know
that
if we noticed
started?
it
I'd
for real.
love to put
People don't
something
really
like that
catch
in
it
my
too
market
much
center.
because of the color. It's kind of like, I don't know, it ain't that plain.
Nice. What'd you say, Kat?
Started while I'm pumping.
Oh,
How'd
what'd
you
you
guys
ask?
get that started in your market center? Because that's
I'm
like,
aware.
I love to cook. That would be fantastic.
we had our culture committee start that where they picked a theme and we started with chili. So we did a chili cook-off and then it just blossomed. And this is a great way to recruit agents too, because agents from other offices come. And actually, the past 2 months, our own agents haven't won. So we better win today.
I don't win cooking, I win eating.
Speaking of that, Kim, you need to go get your enchiladas out. Oh, I'm not supposed to say it to you.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, they are out. My son just brought them up.
Perfect. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We hope that you found some value in this. You've got our email addresses. If you want anything, need anything, want a script practice, whatever, reach out. We're happy to help. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Yeah.